the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Friday, the 28th of November. I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Dawn Neeson. Now, France moves closer to pushing small boats back to shore. Officials say senior regional authorities have now signed off the plan.
Well, 8 months after Sir Keir Starmer first announced this policy, there's no doubt he would welcome any move to operationalise this tactic.
Regulations against being sacked on day one of work have been axed from Angela Rayner's workers' rights plan. Is this another Labour U-turn, or will businesses be breathing a sigh of relief?
And we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country.
Yeah, President Trump vows to permanently pause migration from the so-called third world countries, as after an Afghan man is charged in the fatal shooting of a US soldier in Washington, D.C.
A near-record exodus of under 35s as Labour's tax hikes bite. So is there an opportunity in the UK today at all for young people?
And it's Black Friday, the post-Thanksgiving shopping frenzy that kicks off the Christmas season, traditionally pushing retailers back into the black. Well, we'll be live with Jack Carson at the Amazon Distribution Centre in Bristol.
With 4 in every £5 on Black Friday today being spent online, we're here to see how those millions of orders are processed to make it to you.
I love looking at that distribution centre, the robots that are moving across the ceiling, picking up the packages, sending them across the country. I love that, but I can't help thinking, why on earth are we talking about Black Friday? It's not a British thing.
And it is every time you pick up your phone or turn on your laptop or anything, you're bombarded by them. But what I want to know is, why is Jack not wearing a high-vis vest?
Oh, desperately unsafe.
Elf and safety.
We'll have to ask him when he pops back up. But I mean, is this something that we've just imported wholesale? I mean, we did it with Halloween from about the 1980s.
Well, we kind of did with Halloween. We started off with Halloween, though. We had Halloween first.
I don't think we called it Halloween.
No, we didn't. Well, it's got an ancient Celtic name.
I think it was originally a Scottish.
But hey, we've got someone who can do that.
There was a. I wish I could remember the name. There was a tradition that Scottish children would go and perform a dance for people, or would do something and would get a penny back.
Mark, show us the dance.
You know, this is just terrible stereotyping of the Scottish nation. I haven't a clue what you're talking about. But Black Friday is just a complete and utter con. It is. It's a marketing ploy, and everybody gets sucked into it. It's a nonsense. You can get bargains any time of the year, but of course, willing media like ourselves who are pandering to this nonsense give them the time of day, and I wouldn't give them the time of day.
Oh, well, bar humbug, honestly. Christmas
I don't
is going to
care.
be so much fun with you, isn't it?
Well, why can't we create our own sort of day when everything's cheaper ahead of Christmas? Let's be real. Thanksgiving, the celebration of Thanksgiving in the United States, is all about the Native Americans feeding the pilgrims. It's all to do with this country.
Maybe we could call it the Boxing Day sales. We could have our own.
You would have to do your shopping 364 days early. That's the only thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Any case, welcome to the show, everybody. It is a Friday. Congratulations, you've made it this far. Whether you'll get through the next 3 hours is another matter. It could possibly be a long one. Tom has got a whiteboard moment for you and some very, very interesting stuff.
I've been practicing the drawings.
Yeah, you can't draw that.
Can I not?
You can't draw that. That will be trouble. Ofcom will be in trouble.
Not before 9 o'clock.
But we do have someone sensible joining us today, and that's Tatiana Sanchez, and she's reading out the news headlines.
Dawn, thank you. The top stories. The Labour government's facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Business groups voiced concern it would discourage firms from hiring. The government argued it was making the climb down to stop its employment legislation being delayed in the House of Lords, where it's run into opposition. This comes as warnings grow that Rachel Reeves's budget will deliver lacklustre growth and truly dismal living standards, with millions set to be worse off due to stealth tax rises. The Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith spoke to GB News.
Go and tax people more, you undermine incentives to build a business. Someone builds a business and then you tax them when they try and pass it on to their children with the family business death tax. No wonder we've got an anemic economy where we found out yesterday that 250,000 people are leaving, 100,000 of them, some of our youngest, bestest and brightest. You've got to invert all of this. If a government was serious about growth, it wouldn't be pursuing the Employment Rights Bill, the Bill for Unemployment, and it would not have absolutely done the budget that we heard about on Wednesday, which is on the side of welfare, on the side of the public sector, very cosseted, but not on the side of people who get up and work hard in the morning or small businesses.
Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson says the decision to abandon day one workers' rights against unfair dismissal does not break Labour's manifesto.
We said in our manifesto that we wanted to bring forward important day one protections. We also said that we consult with business and trade unions and others to make that happen, and we've done that. So there's been a pragmatic way forward that's been found. There will still be a big improvement around unfair dismissal rights. No longer 2 years you have to wait in order to make a claim, but down to 6 months. That means we can continue with the passage of the bill through Parliament. It means that from next April, we hope that so many of those rights will be delivered, and that will make a huge difference to working people.
French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of these operations. It comes as French newspaper Le Monde have said they obtained an official document signed by 4 prefects responsible for beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from which thousands of migrants head off to England every day. A robber who kicked and punched a pensioner before taking off with a box of cornflakes and a cottage pie has been jailed for life for his murder. 87-year-old John Mackey was targeted by Peter Augustine after he visited a Co-op store in North London on the 6th of May. 59-year-old Augustine was convicted by jurors of murder and robbery following a trial earlier this month. He's been today sentenced to serve a minimum term of 23 years in prison. Mr. Mackey, who was bleeding from his head after the attack, regained consciousness but was unable to tell officers what had happened. He was treated in hospital for bleeding on the brain and broken ribs but died from his injuries 2 days later. Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. The US president wrote in a Truth Social post that the decision would allow the US system to fully recover from immigration policies that had eroded the gains in living conditions of many Americans. He did not provide details of his plan or name which countries might be affected. Donald Trump's comments come a day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. And the president paid tribute to 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom as a highly respected and magnificent person. She was one of the 2 Guard members shot on Wednesday. The other National Guard member, Andrew Wolf, who was attacked, remains in a critical condition. The suspected gunman, the Afghan national, is in a serious condition. Rescue efforts have been called off at the site of the huge Hong Kong blaze as the death toll has now risen to 128. At least 79 people, including 12 firefighters, were injured. Around 200 people are still missing. Questions are now turning to how the blaze started. Police say the materials on the outside of the building were not fireproof. 3 construction company executives have been arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. And England, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales have submitted their bid to host the 2035 Women's World Cup. If the bid is successful, it would be the first Football World Cup hosted in the UK since 1966 and the largest single sport event ever staged in the country. The bid includes 22 proposed stadiums, 16 in England, 3 in Wales, 2 in Scotland and 1 in Northern Ireland, across 16 host cities. Organisers claim it will be the most accessible tournament ever, with 63 million people living within 2 hours of a proposed venue. And those are the latest GB News headlines for now. There's more news from me in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of today's markets. The pound will buy you $1.3209 and €1.1420 euros. The price of gold is £3,154 and 24 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,711 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 9 minutes past midday and some breaking news to bring you. French police are reportedly going to start intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations.
It comes as French newspaper Le Monde says they have obtained an official document signed by 4 prefects responsible for beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from which thousands of migrants head off to England every single day.
Well, let's get more with our Home and Security editor, Mark White, on this story. Mark, only just learning of this news in the last hour or so.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that this would be very welcomed by Sir Keir Starmer. You remember it was back in April that he and Yvette Cooper first announced that the French government had agreed to carry out this policy and that they were in the process of training to then operationalise it. And the months passed and nothing happened. And, you know, regular check-ins with the UK government were that it was still on course, but it still had to go through all the proper sort of checklists in France before it could be operationalised. Now it seems that those 4 prefectures in areas spanning from Dunkirk through Calais, the Pas de Calais, down towards Boulogne, have all agreed to this plan, have signed up to it. One of the major sticking points was the French police unions, because they were really concerned about their officers being hung out to dry if anything was to go wrong and there was to be a tragedy as a result of these tactics, because the way in which the tactics will operate is that these boats, particularly the taxi boats, as they're called, that come down from the river tributaries, they hang offshore with about 20 migrants on board, and they wait for about 60 others to wade into the waters to get onto the boats. That's the perfect opportunity then, the French Maritime Gendarmerie believe, to start pushing the boats back to the shore in shallow water and calm conditions. But should anything go wrong, the policing unions are very concerned that the political leaders would not have their back. So, you know, they have certainly been resistant to this, but it seems now this major hurdle has been passed in that the individual prefectures have signed up to it. So it would be a matter, if they've not already gone through the training, of just going through that training and then getting it operationalised.
So this is what I was going to ask, because I do remember this being reported on a number of occasions. You know, the French government saying that this was going to happen, the Brits saying this was going to happen, but this is now the people on the ground saying it's going to happen. Is this the final hurdle in what seems to have been a very, very long road to get to this point?
Well, the final hurdle would be, if they haven't already done it, the training tactics of how this will work. We're told it would be a sort of layered, tiered system in which they would sort of approach these boats. There would be verbal warnings to begin with. Then there would be tactics such as throwing netting in the water in the hope that that fouls the propellers up of the dinghies so that they can't go any further. Another escalation would be the actual pushback of the boats using the maritime gendarmerie's rigid inflatables to push the migrant boats back to shore. Now, that in itself would be clearly a robust and violent act trying to do that could lead to people ending up in the water, and that's the concern. So we don't know how much of the training they've done already. Maybe they have to do it all again. But it seems that we are closer than we've ever been now to this tactic finally being, carried out.
Mark, apart from the problem with the unions, which was one of the main issues, and understandably so as well, because, the French police could suddenly find themselves responsible for the death of somebody, for example. But do they have enough police to do this? That was always, it's a long coastline. That was always another excuse they gave. We don't have the number of people we need to stop these boats.
No, it's a very good point, because other tactics, such as puncturing the dinghies that we've heard about, they tried them and then found very quickly that they couldn't really, in any practical way, carry this out, because what you're talking about are half a dozen police officers, usually in a unit, responding to a boat launch and then trying to get near it and puncture it with their knives. But on the other side of this are about 100 angry migrants, the vast majority young men, determined to get on the boat and to the UK. So what the police were finding was that they were coming up against a violent mob in trying to enact this tactic. Now, out at sea, pushing the boat back, fouling the propeller, clearly that's going to be confrontational, but if they can enact a tactic that effectively disables the boat, then putting those police officers at risk on the beach is less of an issue, because they're out in a rigid inflatable. They've succeeded in fouling up the propeller or whatever they're doing. So it might be workable, but I think they're going to come up against the same kind of issue. You've got 100 potentially very determined and angry young men that want to get to the UK doing that. They're not just going to take this lying down. When that rigid inflatable comes toward them, they are going to do their utmost to fight and resist to ensure they can get past the French police patrols and out into the Channel proper.
And
Mark,
there, of course, have been weapons there, haven't there?
Well, exactly. We know a lot of them are on. Mark, you are the expert on this, finally. How confident are you this is going to work?
If the tactic is enacted, it will make some difference. There's no doubt. But as I always say with these things, it's just like, a migrant boat that doesn't make it because its engine breaks down, a migrant boat that gets punctured by a police officer. All that does is postpone the inevitable journey across the Channel, because those migrants aren't being then sort of taken into police custody and put off to a migrant camp. They're just simply allowed to run off and scatter into the dunes to regroup and come back another day.
Okay, Mark White, thanks indeed for bringing us that latest news. We'll follow it closely, of course, here on GB News. But a reminder for you, friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll by scanning the QR code that's just over there on the screen by Dawn. Yeah, there it is. So who should take responsibility for stopping these small boats? So far, 37% of you say Britain, 63% say France. What do you think?
Yeah, do let us know. Now, moving on, Labour has ditched its flagship plan to give workers the right to claim unfair dismissal from day one.
The qualifying period will now be 6 months, marking a direct challenge to Labour's left and a big change from Angela Rayner's original pledge.
OK, so another U-turn or a handbrake turn, a screeching handbrake turn, some have described it as. Joining us now is Research Director at the Centre for Policy Studies, Carl Williams. Carl, there is no way you can dress this up that doesn't scream U-turn.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very clear step down from the previous position and the manifesto position. But actually, I don't think it represents a fundamental change in direction for Labour. Everything they've done since they came to power has been to make it more expensive and riskier for businesses to hire people. They've tweaked one part of the employment rights bill, but all the other things in it are still there.
Well, this is an important point, isn't it? Because when the OBR looked at the Employment Rights Bill back in March, they said that this would have a negative impact on prices, on wages, and indeed on the general economic picture, on growth in this country. Strangely, the OBR didn't make any assessment of this piece of legislation. Perhaps they knew that it would be gutted in some way. But as you say, this one clause being removed from it or being watered down in it, there are dozens of other clauses in this bill that will make it harder to do business.
Completely. It does feel odd that the OBR didn't score it, and I think Rachel Reeves will be very glad of that, because clearly it would be negative. But it's not just the bill itself, it's everything going on around that. I mean, we at the Centre for Policy Studies have put out a briefing today pointing out that since Labour came to power, since 2024, the cost for a business of hiring a minimum wage worker has gone up by over £3,500. If you're hiring someone who's 18 or 19 or 20, it's gone up by £4,000. Partly that's minimum wage, a lot of that's taxes. And then if you layer on top of that some of what's in the Employment Rights Bill, like day one sickness benefit, day one paternity rights, this is obviously just makes it very hard for people. And if you've ever been in the position where you have been hiring people, you know that some of them are great on paper, they might do great in interview, but actually they're not a fit for the job, it turns out. And that's not good for the company. Ultimately, it's not good for them either. And it is important that businesses have the flexibility to not take people on, and we shouldn't put too much risk on them. If Rachel Reeves does believe in economic growth, which she needs to, generate the tax revenue she wants to spend on welfare and the NHS, she should be making things easier for businesses, not harder for them. And this, climb down on the bill, it's one small step, but there's a lot more that could be done.
OK, we'll see how that one pans out. Carl, thank you very much. That's Research Director at Centre for Policy Studies, Carl Williams there.
Well, let's speak to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, now. Catherine, this is a moment for this government that seems to be relatively in a level of chaos.
Yes, another manifesto breach, although they'd rather not admit that. We did ask about the fact, of course, that right to sue an employer for wrongful dismissal from day one has now been changed to 6 months. And we were told that they have, quote, found a pragmatic way forward. They said they're still committed to delivering the biggest improvement to workers' rights in a generation. There was a bit of back and forth about what it actually said in the manifesto, and they said our manifesto commitment was to deliver day one rights, and we are delivering on day one rights to maternity leave and sick pay. Now that is true, I've checked what it said. They said that, but of course the right to sue for unfair dismissal has gone. They said that the bill being stuck in Parliament couldn't deliver from anybody, and that they said in the manifesto that they would fully consult, and that they have done. There was quite a lot of annoyance, though, from political journalists, because only on Monday we were told that the government was absolutely committed to delivering this in full, and now it transpires that emergency talks have been going on for the last couple of days behind the scenes with ministers, with businesses, with unions. But certainly, yes, another change from the manifesto. And also on the budget, I think more and more questions now about the framing that the Chancellor and the government used about this black hole that they were going to have to fill because of productivity downgrades, because of Brexit, because of all sorts of things, that it now turns out had been more than offset by what the IFS referred to as stonking tax receipts. And so all of these tax rises, as they are, let's face it, are choices that the government chose to make, but did not have to. We did ask whether the Chancellor actually misled the public and indeed the markets, because markets are affected by these sorts of things. Again, that went back and forth without, I thought, any really satisfactory conclusion. I also asked about living standards, given that they're only forecast to rise by, 0.5% each year. I mean, that's nothing really. And they said, well, look, the last Parliament, 2019 to 24, they actually went down. So it's better than that. Well, yes, it is better than that. But basically, since the financial crisis, we've had an economy that's pretty stagnant. And, that's largely people are not feeling better off. And then just finally on the small boats. This leak, Le Monde newspaper reporting on a leak of a letter from the Prime Minister to Macron saying that this intervention in shallow water needs to come in this month, and the Prime Minister reported as saying that we do not currently have a deterrent in the English Channel. Well, of course, they don't want to talk about leaks. They said, we have got this deal with the French. There's no silver bullet. Look at the one in, one out deal. We're working collectively. We've got a serious approach. But isn't it interesting when talking to the French president, the Prime Minister allegedly says we've got no deterrent in the English Channel, whereas to us journalists, we're constantly told about all the things that they're doing and the effect that it's going to have. Of course, those numbers are still going in the wrong direction.
Well, Catherine, thanks indeed for bringing us all of that tonight, and also thank you for the quite mesmerising Christmas tree putting up display that we've seen behind you. It looks like there's a ladder out there. They're covering it in baubles. What more can you tell us about the tree, Catherine?
Yes, well, it's going up now. I have just learned that the finishing touch will be the wreath, which is going to go on the number 10 door. But I mean, look, we're still in November, aren't we? So has that whole sort of you don't put your tree up before December actually gone out the window? I think I'm going to put mine up on Sunday, which I think is just before December, but don't want to wait a whole week. But yeah, it's going to hopefully cheer us up all here when lots of us feeling a bit gloomy at the moment.
I'm not so sure, Catherine. I'm waiting for the government U-turn on that one. They'll have it down by this afternoon, don't worry. Catherine Forster, thank you very much for that one. OK, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's lots more coming up on today's show. Warnings Labour may use satellite images to target properties for a council tax surcharge. Is this the start of a new Big Brother housing database?
But after the break, Donald Trump vows to pause migration from what he calls third world countries. His toughest language yet. All to come.
All of that and much more to come. In much more to come, Tom. Much more. Give it some welly.
So much more.
GB News, Britain's news channel. See you soon.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Very good morning to you, Christine.
Good morning to the pair of you and all the watchers and listeners.
Yeah, absolutely. When you look back...
Oh, you still got your hat.
Well done.
Oh, good on you.
I think it's shrunk a bit, but still.
I can't believe it's 23 years ago. Can you?
Well, if you can't, no, nor can I. And people come up to me and say whatever they say, and I usually say, do you realise how long ago that was? Oh, 10 years. What? I said, no, it was 2002. It turned people's view of me completely on its head. And I'd gone into the jungle as one of the most hated women in the country, or disliked, whatever you want to say. And people suddenly saw the real me. And, you know, basically I'm quite nice, I'm fun, I'm kind to animals, you know, and when people get to know the real me, they think, oh, gosh, she's not this awful old witch that the newspapers have told us she was.
Oh, you're always a battle axe, Christine. You'll always be a battle axe. Come on.
You just have to be yourself. And if yourself, your real self, can't cope with the privations and the boredom, because they deliberately make sure that you're bored most of the time. Don't forget, viewers see a fraction of it. And they also make sure that there's a mix of personalities, so that usually there's there's that sort of stuff going on. But, you know, I have to say, a tad envious. First of all, they're in the Australian sunshine, which would be nice. And I mean, what's not to like about it? You get flown out first class. We went Qantas. I have no idea I hope they fly the flag. I had a wonderful time. They flew my other half out, because I said, if I'm going to be away for 3 weeks or so, you will have to fly Neil out as well, because otherwise I shall have to put him into care. So they swallowed that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 28 minutes past midday.
Yeah, now President Donald Trump has said he'll permanently pause migration from third world countries after 2 National Guard members were shot in Washington, D.C.
Well, in a post online late on Thanksgiving, that was yesterday, the US president said he'll end all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens.
OK, joining us now is a director... Right, OK, now we are waiting for a guest to come with us. But this is obviously, sadly, we lost a young woman last night. She died. She was 20 years old. She'd only been in the job a few months. It was just heartbreaking. So you can understand Donald Trump's reaction at night when he's on Truth Social, which is where he announces most things. And this is what he came out with. He permanently pulls migration from third world countries.
And of course, the other man involved in the other victim in this attack is still in hospital, is still fighting for his life. I mean, these were, according to some reports, shots in the head. I mean, really quite horrific attacks.
Yeah. Sarah Beckstrom was the young lady that lost her life in this. OK, now joining us now is Director of First Migration, Dean Morgan. Dean, this was announced by Donald Trump overnight, permanently pausing migration from third world countries. What do we make of this one?
Yeah, it's interesting what he said. You know, I kind of look on with envy at America today, this morning, you know, waking up to see America first. And you can see the problems that the Western world has been facing over a long period of time now. And, you know, a lot of people on the left are obviously going to kick off and say it's racist and everything else. But if you go through and pick apart what he actually said, he said foreign nationals coming to America need to be a net asset and must be capable of loving America. Well, if you're going to move to a foreign country, then that should just be a given, shouldn't it? You know, when in Rome, we've said that for 2,000 years, haven't we? And we've only said that because it's true, not because it's a lie. You know, the truth runs a marathon, lies run a sprint. He also called out people that are naturalised, and I presume he meant dual nationals, because it's unlawful under international law to make someone stateless. We've all seen Terminal with Tom Hanks. So, you know, but he's going to denaturalize people that undermine, quote, domestic tranquility. You know, that's completely rational. If I went on a plane and I go to the UAE or Russia or China and I misbehave and I abuse the locals and I shame myself and my country, they're going to revoke my visa or even potentially nationality and deport me. So it's amazing to see that actually someone somewhere is finally doing something.
Is there a difficulty here, though? Because you say that would be true in Russia or China or the UAE. These are fairly totalitarian, top-down heavy countries, right? The United States has prided itself on freedom of speech, on the ability of being able to criticise those in power. And if someone had perhaps moved to the United States, perhaps was a dual citizen, but joined a protest movement or said things that the president didn't like, Is it really credible for a liberal democracy, for a country that has a First Amendment to protect freedom of speech, to say that person should be deported?
But look, the countries I mentioned may be authoritarian, but you can't argue that they're not high-trust, low-crime societies. Whereas
Russia is an incredibly high-crime society. You're more likely to be murdered in Moscow than just about any other major capital in the world.
I mean, I lived in central London for 20 years. The crime is off the charts.
Are you seriously comparing the crime in Russia to the crime in the United Kingdom?
Yeah, I would stand
That's
on that.
nuts.
Yeah, I think that we've become
nuts.
such a low trust, high crime society. I mean, most crimes go unrecorded. People are going to, put it this way, I could tweet freely in Russia compared to here, couldn't I?
No, you can't.
They don't put 12,000 people a year in prison.
They put people in prison for tweets. They absolutely do. They're an incredibly illiberal society. That's not to say that Britain is good here. Don't get me wrong. That's not to excuse the horrific illiberal speech regime we have in this country. But let's not pretend there isn't a horrific and illiberal speech regime in countries like Russia and China and Iran and North Korea. That's what we should be avoiding. And yet you seem to be lauding these places.
Walk down the street and get on trains without people mass attacking them. They don't have grooming gang scandals that cover the entire country and bring in councils and government and politicians. What kind of society would you're happy to live in? That kind of society?
No, you're absolutely misunderstanding where I come from. I think you are profoundly ignorant on what's going on in Russia. If you think there aren't grooming gangs that operate in Russia, if you think that there isn't horrific murder and rape and gang warfare that goes on in Russia, I think you are living in a parallel world. Russia is one of the places where you are most likely to be kidnapped or most likely to be murdered.
Dean, can we just Russophobia, and that's just an ignorant comment. I'll be honest with you.
I'm afraid you're buying into Kremlin propaganda here. You are completely blindsided by Kremlin propaganda when it comes to Russia.
I have to ask, have you ever visited Russia?
I'm glad I haven't.
Well, then you're talking from a position of ignorance, aren't you?
I'm not talking from a position of ignorance because I can see...
You're making allegations about how degraded and how crime-ridden.
Absolutely, because I can look at the data, I can look at the international observers, I can see respective... Going to one place and having a showboated tour, probably led around by agents of the state, you are not going to get a real picture of that country, not even slightly.
The gentleman, I hate
to...
Dean, sorry.
The Soviet Union fell in 1989. You're still stuck in the Soviet
It's run
era.
by a KGB thug. Vladimir Putin is a KGB officer thug.
Dean, can I just get back...
I wasn't here to talk about KGB or a thing. I'm here to talk about immigration, but it's clearly a sore point.
Dean, we are here to talk about immigration. We are just finally one quick question. The alleged attacker, the killer in this case that we're talking about in America, was in America legally. He had been approved for a visa. So stopping people coming in from third world countries wouldn't have made any difference in this incident, would it?
No, but if you're going to be invited into a country and you're given a visa, is it not reasonable to expect you to abide by the laws of the land and not shoot two guardsmen? So he should have his visa revoked and he shouldn't be in America. He is a clear and present danger to all the Americans and non-Americans that live there and pay their taxes and contribute, So he shouldn't be behaving like that on a visa, should he?
Well, no, of course, nobody should be running around killing people with guns, but that does happen a lot in America. I think we'll all agree on that one. Dean, thank you very much for joining us. That's Director of First Migration, Dean Morgan. Thank you very much for joining us on that one.
Absolutely, and do get involved, gbnews.com/your say. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Plenty more still to come, but first, your very latest news headlines.
Good afternoon. The top stories. The Labour government's facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. A robber who kicked and punched a pensioner before taking off with a box of cornflakes and a cottage pie has been jailed for life for his murder. Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. It comes a day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C., one of whom sadly died. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me at the top of the hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Good afternoon, Britain. 37 minutes past midday is the time.
OK, now there's lots more coming up on today's show. Warnings Labour may use satellite images to target properties for council tax surcharge. Is this the start of a new Big Brother housing database?
And all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a windy day out there today, particularly towards the northwest. That wind bringing plenty of heavy showers in, again, particularly to the northwest, but some drier and brighter spells also in between the spells of wet weather. We've got low pressure to the north, bringing this strong west to northwesterly wind, although the winds peaking during the morning and then easing into the afternoon across northwest Scotland. Still a blustery day. And the showers merging to longer spells of heavy rain across the north and west of Scotland, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland. Also showers moving through much of England and Wales, but interspersed by some sunshine. Feeling cool in the wind, however, temperatures above average in the south, closer to average in the north, and that means we will see some mountain snow for Scotland as these bands of rain move through, but heavy rain at lower levels, even some hail for the north and west of Scotland in some of the heavier showers as we end the day. This spell of rain pushing into the north and west of Northern Ireland, a heavy downpour for many, and for much of England and Wales during the evening, a quieter break from the weather with clear spells for many and mostly dry, but we have got the next system soon pushing rain into parts of the southwest and Wales overnight. Those heavy outbreaks of rain moving swiftly across the southern third of the UK, particularly heavy across parts of Wales and the southwest along with stronger winds. I think drier for Scotland and Northern Ireland, frost in places particularly for the north of Scotland, albeit with some showers into the far north. But it's across the southern half of the UK, particularly in England and Wales, where we're going to see the wettest weather during Saturday morning. Spells of heavy rain moving their way eastwards across the country, replaced by showers later on, along with gusty winds, clearer and colder for Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Thank you so much for helping us to reach 8 million followers and subscribers across our social media channels. That's 8 million fearless Brits standing up for what really matters.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. Road users should exercise caution when crossing the M90 Friarton Bridge due to strong winds. In Wakefield, a collision on the A1 northbound between junctions with the A639 and the M62 has closed one lane, causing a 10-minute delay. On the M1 northbound in Northamptonshire, a collision has closed one lane between junction 16 and 18, with normal traffic expected by 1:15. On the trains, there are disruptions on Avanti West Coast and London North Western Railway between Coventry and Rugby. On the M25 clockwise in Surrey, a broken-down vehicle between junction 10 and 11 has closed one lane. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 20 to 1.
Yeah, now this is scary, OK. Satellites will now be used to spy on high-value homes when council taxes increase, in a real-life version of Big Brother.
Yes, the Valuation Office Agency has confirmed it will use, quotes, modern technology when Rachel Reeves's raid on some of the biggest, most expensive homes in the UK is brought in.
Well, we're joined now by Elliot Keck, who's the Head of Campaigns at the Taxpayers Alliance. Elliot, good to see you. Thank you very much for coming in. Now, this is something that they've done in Wales already, isn't it? So you get the impression we're going to fly drones over your house to see how big it is.
Well, certainly use satellite imagery. We obviously have a problem. The problem that they have essentially when bringing in this policy is we haven't previously had to value properties above this certain level. So we have this existing banding system between council bands A and H, and H is £320,000 based on the 1991 value. They've never had to value properties at this level, £2 to £5 million. And yeah, they're going to have to use some fairly menacing and sinister ways to do it. You know, trying to see how big your garden is, how big your house is. Sort of reminds me of the tax inspectors in the 18th century that used to wander around streets in London spotting how many chimneys you had or how many windows you had.
Yeah, the window tax.
Yeah, exactly. And it is sort of going back to that, and I think it just speaks to the fact that this is a pretty vicious, envy-driven policy that should be scrapped.
Well, at least with the window tax, that was something that was real. You could count the number of...
Exactly,
I mean, anyone who's ever sold or bought a house in their life will know that there isn't one price that house is.
No, of course
not. You haggle for it. There's a market price. How the government thinks it can determine what this house is actually worth, I mean, unless you actually sell the house, you'll never know what your house is worth.
Yeah, and certainly when you're getting into those higher values, those sort of £3, £4, £5 million, the price can fluctuate very, very significantly with relatively small changes in a neighbourhood, relatively small changes in an economy. You know, at the lower end, the price is probably slightly less volatile, but, you know, the house price can easily go from 10 million to 6 million very, very quickly, and we've seen those happen when, you know, houses go on the housing market and see significant drops, because at that high level there's not many sellers, not many buyers rather, and therefore buyers can dictate the price quite significantly. But as I said, listen, this speaks to the fact that this is just not a very good policy. It's not a very well designed policy. People with houses of this value, we can assume, are the sort of people we want in this country. They're already the sort of people that are being driven out of this country by the tax regime across so many other areas, and I would absolutely urge the government to scrap this before it's too late.
I mean, this is, just to be clear, this is aimed at houses worth £2 million.
Yeah, starting at 2 million.
Which to lots of people sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but in London and the South East in particular, you can have quite small properties that are worth the value of £2 million.
Yeah, absolutely. And you will be talking about, in a lot of cases, people with actually not massive amounts of take-home disposable income, once you take into account all the other costs, the fact that they're paying a mortgage, the fact that they have now much, much higher school fees to pay, the fact that we have extraordinarily high marginal tax rates. You're already talking about a group that, you know, yes, they are obviously better off than much of the country, but they also contribute absolutely huge amounts. They're the people that have been targeted ruthlessly, not just by this government, I'm afraid, but by the last government. You know, you may be looking at second home council tax premiums. You know, they've already been really clobbered. They're leaving in droves, and yet the government has decided to double down on what is already very clearly a failing policy agenda.
Elliot, thank you very much for coming in and explaining that. It's quite scary stuff, isn't it? That's Elliot Keck, who's the head of campaigns at the Taxpayers Alliance.
Well, we should say that a spokesperson for the Valuation Office Agency told us we're developing our approach and will set out more details in due course following the outcome of the government's consultation. For domestic valuations, we typically use sales data, property attribute details and government records. We also inspect properties where needed.
We employ professional valuers and use industry-standard techniques and modern technology to assist us.
Right, well, that's what they say. Now, we should say that this Christmas we're putting on a really exciting event and we want lots of you to be there too.
Yes, on Saturday, the 13th of December, you are invited to join the GB News family for our Carols by Candlelight concert. For your chance to be with us, you can apply for tickets by simply scanning the QR code on your screen right now or going to gbnews.com/carols. The concert will be broadcast on Christmas Eve.
Sparkly and Christmassy.
I love Christmas.
Feels like December already, doesn't it?
And that is just like 2 days after my birthday.
Oh,
the
wow.
13th, my birthday's the 11th. I may have mentioned it a couple of times.
I'll make a note of that, the 11th.
Just in case you want to send
the 11th, OK. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Yes, all the Black Friday mayhem. You can buy birthday presents. We'll be live at an Amazon factory.
Now, if you're in search of some Christmas sunshine, here's the weather in Europe.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The heavy rain across parts of Greece due to Storm Adele is now moving into Turkey. We could see some high rainfall totals building up. There's going to be some thunder mixed in, even some large hail as well. Further west, and a few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy, elsewhere mostly dry. Much of Spain actually largely dry, similar for southern France, but some wet weather pushing into northwestern parts of Spain and also Portugal, and that will feed further southeastwards through the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is coming up to 10 to 1. It's Black Friday, the biggest shopping day of the year, evidently. The perfect time to bag yourself a bargain. I mean, look what I've got. Who can complain?
Well, shall we speak to GB News' technology editor, Aaron Brown, who's with us with all the latest deals. Aaron?
Yeah, we've been talking a lot this morning about how many of these deals for Black Friday have now moved online, but I thought I'd start with a bit of a throwback. Lidl has done an in-store only deal. They're doing their biggest ever discount on a KitchenAid mixer. This is the only place that's got a price anything like this, but you're going to have to go down store, what they used to call a doorbuster back in the day for those deals. Moving on, if you're interested in a new Amazon device, they've got discounts across their Kindles, Echoes, their Fire TV sticks, but if you've got an existing model, you can get an extra 20% off the sale price by just sending it back to Amazon, and even a broken device will qualify for that extra discount. So this example here would drop down to £51. Moving on, Sonos's wireless speakers are won loads of awards in the industry, but not known for their cheap prices.
No.
That's changed now, though, with 25% off for the Black Friday event. The good thing about this one as well is it's not time limited. Well, not in the same way as the other Black Friday deals. These offers are valid until December 22nd, so you've got a bit more time for those. And Sonos's collaboration with IKEA is even cheaper. That's down 70%. You can get a Sonos speaker that looks like a picture frame that you can customize the artwork for, or in the base of a lamp to sort of hide the tech around your house. They start from £99 at the moment. Wow. And if I've got time for one more, AirPods 4 are on sale to £99 on Amazon. That price is pretty consistent across John Lewis, Currys, all the big retailers. AO has also price matched it, but if you're already a member of their £40 a year membership scheme, then you get it for £79 once it's loaded. There we are. Not worth joining the scheme just for that discount, but if you're already a member, that's the cheapest place you can find some AirPods.
Excellent stuff. Wow, thank you very much for showing us all of that. But of course, it's not just what we buy on the screen, it's how it's distributed. Should we speak to Jack Carson, our intrepid reporter, who's in Bristol at an Amazon distribution centre? Jack.
Thank you very much. Well, here we are, of course, the robots are doing their job upstairs, but this part of the job is very still people-orientated, actually packing the orders to get those deals to you. Richard Griffiths, the General Manager, is with us. Show us really how all this works.
Yeah, so we're here at the pack process, which is a really, really important time when we're putting those customer orders as Black Friday deals into our packaging. So I'll give you a quick demonstration. So we're taking an item that's come down from our pick department. We take a scan, and this item is to be shipped in its own packaging as part of our aim to reduce packaging and drive sustainability. We then apply this sticker, which gives the customer details to the shipment. We give it a scan, and we place it on the line.
Can I have a go?
Go for it.
OK, right, so we've got this item in the box. I'm not even sure what this is, but somebody's buying it for Black Friday, so we're going to scan it under the scanner there. And this needs then a serial number scan as well.
Yep.
And that is once again one that goes in its own box. So we're just going to take a label here, stick that on, and then whoever the lucky person is, that goes on the conveyor belt, and on it goes. So there we go. So Richard, just tell us, just how busy is Black Friday? I mean, we've got so many people. I guess some of them are seasonal as well to get these orders out.
Yeah, this is one of our busiest shipping days of the year, right? With tens of millions of units shipped so far this week, and millions more being shipped today. And here in our Bristol site, we've got over 400 seasonal employees taken on to support us through this period.
Amazing. Richard, thank you so much for joining us. That's just a little taste for you guys exactly how those Black Friday deals get to you.
Well, Jack, thanks so much for giving us that view inside those distribution centres. Feels a bit like that moment in Toy Story 2 when they're all going through the,
Yes.
With the suitcases, and I genuinely thought that's how airports were for the longest time. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There is still a lot more to come on the programme.
There is indeed, yes. We are going to be taking a look at... Oh, we're taking a look at the weather.
Yes, but of course, next hour we'll be speaking to Kemi Badenoch, the leader of His Majesty's most loyal opposition. That to come, of course, and so much more, all after your very latest weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a windy day out there today, particularly towards the northwest. That wind bringing plenty of heavy showers in, again, particularly to the northwest, but some drier and brighter spells also in between the spells of wet weather. We've got low pressure to the north, bringing this strong west to northwesterly wind, although the winds peaking during the morning and then easing into the afternoon across northwest Scotland. Still a blustery day. And the showers merging to longer spells of heavy rain across the north and west of Scotland, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland. Also showers moving through much of England and Wales, but interspersed by some sunshine. Feeling cool in the wind, however, temperatures above average in the south, closer to average in the north, and that means we will see some mountain snow for Scotland as these bands of rain move through, but heavy rain at lower levels, even some hail for the north and west of Scotland in some of the heavier showers as we end the day. This spell of rain pushing into the north and west of Northern Ireland, a heavy downpour for many, and for much of England and Wales during the evening, a quieter break from the weather with clear spells for many and mostly dry, but we have got the next system soon pushing rain into parts of the southwest and Wales overnight. Those heavy outbreaks of rain moving swiftly across the southern third of the UK, particularly heavy across parts of Wales and the southwest along with stronger winds. I think drier for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Frost in places, particularly for the north of Scotland, albeit with some showers into the far north. But it's across the southern half of the UK, particularly in England and Wales, where we're going to see the wettest weather during Saturday morning. Spells of heavy rain moving their way eastwards across the country, replaced by showers later on, along with gusty winds, clearer and colder for Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
So many people within the armed services now can say that they owe their lives if they were, shall we say, working in the Middle East and in Afghanistan, in Iraq before that, actually owe their lives to the fact that it was dogs that they sent out to see whether or not there were explosives in a building, whether they were going through a minefield or whatever. So I think we were just talking previously, of course, Hannibal uses elephants. And there has not been a single year since the end of the Second World War when we have not had a conflict of some sort, and animals are still being used. We don't have horses used in the same way, obviously. We still had the cavalry, which is why 8 million horses were lost. Horses, donkeys and mules were lost in the First World War. But they weren't just the cavalry horses. They were the horses that were pulling the guns, that were delivering the armaments, that were carrying out the wounded. And what is interesting is, today in the 21st century, in Ukraine, who are leading the way in using drones in modern warfare, they are doing what they did in the First World War, and they're using horses, donkeys and mules to take the wounded out. The wonderful memorial that we have on Park Lane, it's there and it recognises that it was horses, dogs, donkeys, mules, and if you look, because they have individual statues of them, but if you actually look at the memorial itself, you will see pigeons. Dolphins. I mean, we know that dolphins are being used. As human beings, we share this planet with millions of other animals. And for centuries, we have used certain animals and abused them, used them and abused them, and got them into service with us.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Friday, the 28th of November. Here's Tom Harwood and I'm Dawn Neeson.
Now, France moves closer to pushing small boats back to the shore. Yes, officials say senior regional authorities have now finally signed off on the plan.
Well, there's no doubt this will be welcomed by the Prime Minister. It's 8 months since he first announced that this policy was going to be enacted by the French.
And day one sacking protections axed from Angela Rayner's workers' rights plan. Is this yet another Labour U-turn?
And we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country.
US President Trump vows to permanently pause migration from the so-called third world countries, hours after an Afghan man is charged with the fatal shooting of a US soldier in Washington, D.C.
And a near record exodus of under 35s as Labour's tax hikes bite. So is there opportunity at all in the UK for young people?
Now, it's Black Friday, the post-Thanksgiving American shopping frenzy that somehow made it over this country. It kicks off the Christmas season, allegedly. Traditionally pushing retailers back into the black, we'll have the mayhem and the shopping frenzy. When is a black hole not a black hole? When it doesn't exist.
Carry on. Don't let me interrupt. I perish the thought. Yeah, OK, go on. Black holes.
The Chancellor told us, and implied heavily for months, that she was massively short on tax receipts in order to make up all of her spending. It turns out now that that's not true. That she had bumper tax receipts.
No.
She had enough money to keep
They weren't lying to us, were they?
I mean, I take your sort of pantomime reaction with a pinch of salt there, but it does seem like we've had the most incredible level of subterfuge from the Chancellor, of misdirection, pretending that there was this big black hole and that's why taxes had to be raised. And now we learn there wasn't a black hole at all. I mean, it is the most extraordinary story.
In any case, he will be digging further into the black hole and indeed the story, and it will involve a whiteboard. So we're doing black and white. It's a colour thing going on here. But we do have someone sensible in the studio with us, and I'm not talking about Mark White because that wouldn't apply. It is Tatiana Sanchez, and here she is with your news headlines.
Dawn, thank you. The top stories. The Labour government's facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Business groups voiced concerns it would discourage firms from hiring. The government argued it was making the climb down to stop its employment legislation being delayed in the House of Lords, where it has run into opposition. This comes as warnings grow that Rachel Reeves's budget will deliver lacklustre growth and truly dismal living standards, with millions of people set to be worse off due to stealth tax rises. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith spoke to GB News.
Go and tax people more, you undermine incentives to build a business. Someone builds a business and then you tax them when they try and pass it on to their children with the family business death tax. No wonder we've got an anemic economy where we found out yesterday that 250,000 people are leaving, 100,000 of them, some of our youngest, bestest and brightest. You've got to invert all of this. If a government was serious about growth, it wouldn't be pursuing the Employment Rights Bill, the Bill for Unemployment, and it would not have absolutely done the budget that we heard about on Wednesday, which is on the side of welfare, on the side of the public sector, very cosseted, but not on the side of people who get up and work hard in the morning or small businesses.
Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson says the decision to abandon day one workers' rights against unfair dismissal does not break Labour's manifesto.
We said in our manifesto that we wanted to bring forward important day one protections. We also said that we consult with business and trade unions and others to make that happen, and we've done that. So there's been a pragmatic way forward that's been found. There will still be a big improvement around unfair dismissal rights. No longer 2 years you have to wait in order to make a claim, but down to 6 months. That means we can continue with the passage of the bill through Parliament. It means that from next April, we hope that so many of those rights will be delivered, and that will make a huge difference to working people.
Elsewhere, French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel, as following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. It comes as French newspaper Le Monde says they have obtained an official document signed by 4 prefects responsible for beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from which thousands of migrants head off to England every day. A robber who kicked and punched a pensioner before taking off with a cottage pie has been jailed for life for his murder. 87-year-old John Mackey was targeted by Peter Augustine after he visited a co-op store in North London on the 6th of May. 59-year-old Augustine was convicted by jurors of murder and robbery following a trial earlier this month. He's been today sentenced to serve a minimum term of 23 years in prison. Mr. Mackey was treated in hospital for bleeding on the brain and broken ribs, but died from his injuries 2 days later.
In other news, Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. The US president wrote on Truth Social that the decision would allow the US system to fully recover from immigration policies that had eroded the gains and living conditions of many Americans. He didn't provide details of his plan or name which countries might be affected, though. Donald Trump's comments come a day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. And the president paid tribute to 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom as a highly respected and magnificent person. She was one of the 2 Guard members shot on Wednesday. The other National Guard member, Andrew Wolf, who was attacked, remains in a critical condition. The suspected gunman, the Afghan national, is in a serious condition. He drove thousands of miles from his home in Washington state to carry out the attack. England, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales have submitted their bid to host the 2035 Women's World Cup. If the bid is successful, it would be the first Football World Cup hosted in the UK since 1966 and the largest single sport event ever staged in the country. The bid includes 22 proposed stadiums, 16 in England, 3 in Wales, 2 in Scotland and 1 in Northern Ireland across 16 host cities. Organisers claim it would be the most accessible tournament ever, with 63 million people living within 2 hours of a proposed venue. And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, there's more news from me in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a look at the market as the pound buying you $1.3209 and 1.1420 euros. The price of gold is £3,154 and 24 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,711 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 8 minutes past 1, and of course the government is still in a little bit of turmoil.
Yes, we are now waiting to be joined by leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch. But until we get to her, we're just going to go over another U-turn, the amazing U-turn, the second in as many days on workers' rights.
I mean, if the government U-turns enough times, I mean, it's going to be able to sort of fix all of the energy problems in this country. It'll be a spinning dynamo, the amount it's sort of U-turning and then U-turning again.
I'm getting motion sickness, to be honest with you. Let's go now to, I think, leader of the Conservative Party, Kemi Badenoch. Kemi, good to see you. Kemi, it looks like you're in a pub.
I am.
Excellent, good girl.
I'm in a pub that sadly has had to close because of flooding. I'm in Wales, Monmouth, and we're trying to see what we can do with the local Conservative councillors.
Now, of course, pubs, like many businesses, have been really struggling over the course of the last 12 months. I mean, the national insurance increases, the minimum wage increases, but more than that, there is a new bill that is currently going through Parliament that is going to put a lot of impositions upon businesses. For pubs, it will include something that's known as the banter ban, where what people say within the pub might well be able to be put on the shoulders of the pub landlord. But more than that, this is the same piece of legislation that the Labour Party itself is now beginning to unpick. What do you have to say about their U-turn on these day one rights?
It is a government in chaos. But first of all, can I just thank the Conservatives in the House of Lords? They're the ones who brought this about. Getting other people to join them, voting it down. Andrew Griffith, Shadow Business Secretary, has been going to every single business he can, getting them to join the campaign, because it is a terrible idea what they are doing. The day one rights in particular would mean you could sue an employer before you'd even started working. You could walk through the door and immediately have rights to take them to a tribunal. Crazy. So much red tape. You talked about the banter ban. You need basically, pub police to be able to meet the legislation's requirements, a right to roam. This is a bill written by the unions for the unions. Unions can come into any business, even a pub like this one, as long as you employ 20 or more people. They come in and they can do what they like, force you to put things on your notice board. Just terrible. And is this going to create growth? Nope. Is it going to create jobs? No. It is yet another socialist piece of nonsense which Labour brought in because they didn't have any ideas. And now they're U-turning because they can see that it has landed like a cup of cold sick with business.
Kemi, they are denying it's another U-turn. They are saying us out here are just misinterpreting what they said in their manifesto. But you have to ask yourself, are they really putting the party before the people?
Yes, they are putting their party before the people. Rachel Reeves' budget was all about saving her own skin, taxing workers to pay for benefits, to buy off her backbenchers. It was terrible. And right now, they're just trying to keep themselves in a job. It's extremely selfish. And it is a U-turn. I asked Keir Starmer about this at Prime Minister's Questions earlier on in the year, and he laughed, as he always does, dismissed it. It is a U-turn. Justin Matters, the minister or the former minister who was working on the bill, has said it is a manifesto breach. So they're just trying to save face. This is a government in chaos all over the place. Don't know what they're doing.
Well, at least this is a manifesto breach that some businesses will be breathing a sigh of relief about in some small part. There, of course, are other manifesto breaches that perhaps are less positive for businesses up and down the countries. The tax that is now going to be imposed on so many more people over the course of this Parliament, almost £30 billion of extra tax rises for ordinary working people. But the news that seems to be eking out today is that this was not to fill any kind of black hole whatsoever. What now is being more widely understood is that the Chancellor chose to do this rather than was forced to do this by some big deficit or imposition from the markets.
Yeah. So all of this stuff she's been saying about there being a deficit that the Tories left and a black hole here or there, it's all nonsense. It's excuses for them to do stuff that they've been itching to do when they were in opposition. VAT on private schools is not what was going to close a huge deficit. They did it because they wanted to punish people who send their children to private schools. Going after farmers, these are not our people, Labour thought. We can have a go at them, take some of their money. Small businesses. This is an attack on working people to give money to for people on benefits. Labour are the welfare party. It's Conservatives that are the party of work. And that's what we've seen with all of the actions that they've taken around tax.
Kemi, talking of the budget, your budget speech impressed a lot of people, but you were also accused of bullying and bullying another woman, i.e. Rachel Reeves. What would you say about that accusation?
I would say that Labour like to dish it, but they can't take it. Every single week, I have Keir Starmer saying one thing or the other to me. I don't complain about it. I deal with it and I get on with the job. That is politics. It is a rough and tumble sport. Rachel Reeves is the Chancellor of the Exchequer. She's not a school prefect. She's not a librarian. She's the second most powerful person in the country, and she is doing a bad job. And if she thinks that anyone telling her that she's not doing a good job is complaining because she's a woman, then she is deluding herself. And I was speaking for a lot of people out there in the country who wanted her to hear what I was saying.
Did you, I'm asking as another woman, Kemi, did you find that offensive when she made the excuse of mansplaining and people were talking to her because she was a woman in that way? Did you find that offensive as a woman?
Yes, because I think it's bad for women if we see senior women in public life complaining about mansplaining. It makes it look like we're not up to the job. She's the one who said, I'm the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer, I'm the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer. I want to be a role model to young girls. I've got 2 daughters, and what I want them to see is strong women doing their jobs, not spending all the time talking about how they're a woman and people are being mean to them. It is a distraction from what she was elected to do, which was fix the economy. All she's done is made the economy worse. And if she had any decency, she would resign because she's broken a hell of a lot of promises.
Have you spoken to her personally since that day?
No, I haven't. I'm not sure she wanted to speak to me.
Would you like to talk to her?
No, I've said what I had to say. What I would like to see is her changing course.
Now, that was, of course, the budget. That was on Wednesday. It feels like it's been a long time since then, quite frankly. But the government wants to talk about something else today. We're hearing news that in northern France, all of the different regional police forces have finally agreed to institute a pushback policy for small boats in shallow water. This seems to be like a significant success from this government. They've been asking for this for months. I think we've been waiting for it for about 6 or 7 months. And finally, it seems like the French will start pushing these boats back. Is that a victory for this government?
It'll be a victory if it happens. I've heard enough announcements now to not get excited. Do you remember their one-in, one-out plan where the people that sent to France came right back? This is what Labour does. So giving me an announcement is not enough. An announcement is not a plan. Let us see the plan in action. Then we can decide whether it's a victory or not a victory. But quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of government saying, well, they've agreed this and they've announced that and nothing happening. So we need to stop the boats. We have a plan to stop the boats. We have our borders plan. We've talked about how we made mistakes in government. I'm not here to pretend that we didn't. Mistakes were made. I'm the person who's now been elected to fix those mistakes that our party made with new policy, and I brought them out. Labour should do those things. I think Shabana Mahmood wants to do some things. I don't think her party will let her. So I've given her my support. We need to leave the ECHR as a starting point so that all the other things they need doing can get done.
Kemi, your government did have plenty of opportunity to do many of the things that you say you would do now if you're elected again. Why didn't you do it in the past?
Well, we did do some of those things. You know, you look at the small boats crisis. That wasn't there in 2010. It wasn't there when I came in as an MP in 2017. We had a different problem. Do you remember when illegal migrants were coming through the Channel Tunnel on lorries? We fixed that. We solved that problem. But the thing we tried to do, which was the Rwanda scheme, kept running into legal obstacles, and we didn't get those over the line before the election. We did put it to the public, but of course, you know, lots of people thought 14 years was enough time. But we did do a lot of things. Even the lowering of net migration numbers that you're seeing now, that was because of changes which we made towards the end of our time, changes which Labour opposed, by the way. Lots of people said that they were cruel, but those changes that we left in are now working. So I'm not saying we were perfect, but we did do some things, and I can promise you the country would have been in a much worse place if anyone else had been in charge.
OK, well, Kemi Badenoch, thanks indeed for joining us from that pub. Let's hope it gets opened as soon as possible. And thanks indeed for being here on GB News.
Thanks, Kemi, very much. OK, now French police are reportedly going to start intercepting migrant boats crossing the Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations.
It comes as the French newspaper Le Monde says that they have obtained an official document signed by 4 prefects responsible for beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from which thousands of migrants, of course, head off to this country every single day.
Obviously, the $64,000 question is, will it work? So here to explain is Home Security Editor Mark White. Mark.
I thought it was interesting listening to the Conservative leader there. She's right to say that we've had so many announcements on so many issues, particularly this issue. It was April when Sir Keir Starmer spoke about the French now willing to change their policy to push back these boats. And month after month after month passed, we went to the government constantly to say, when on earth is this tactic going to be enacted? And we're told it was still being, operationalised and agreed by the French, and it hasn't happened. So now it looks as if we are at the stage with these 4 prefectures having signed this agreement of when we get the next spell of good weather, whenever that might be. We've got horrific weather in the Channel at the moment. It's continued for a very long period. But when we get to a good spell of weather, let's see whether those maritime police officers will actually go forward with this tactic. We're told the way that it will work is it will concentrate initially on these taxi boats. They come down from the river systems with about a couple of dozen migrants on board who are there to facilitate the other 60-odd migrants who wade into the water and pull them on board the boats. It's these boats that the French maritime gendarmerie will try to target in shallow water and push those boats back to shore before the main body of passengers have got on board. So, as you can imagine, it could be quite a tricky operation that could be fraught with potential hazards, because there's no doubt that the migrants on board these taxi boats are going to do their level best to fight the French maritime police as they try to push them back on shore.
Are the unions happy with this? Well, one of the previous issues before has been the French unions saying, well, you're putting police officers at risk. They could be responsible for people dying in the Channel.
The French police unions have not been happy about this for some considerable time, since it was first envisaged, because they believe that the French political leaders will not have their backs. If something goes wrong, they'll wash their hands of it. The French police, who are involved in pushing back the boats, will be the ones who are hung out to dry here. So they are certainly not at all enthused about this particular policy, but there's been a lot of pressure coming from Sir Keir Starmer, including just recently another piece of correspondence that Le Monde, the reputable French publication, has quoted in their article today, where Sir Keir Starmer is once again calling on Emmanuel Macron to get this policy over the line, to get it operationalised as soon as possible, because there just, he says, is not an adequate deterrence in the Channel.
So when's it going to start? Well, just quickly, Mark, we know we're running out of time, but when's it going to start happening?
When we get a run of good weather. I mean, the trouble is at the moment, it's so bad out there that even when you get days where it's passable, you might only get 1 or 2 boats coming, and predicting what beaches are going to set off from could be difficult as well. So I think we need some, which at this time of year is very difficult, flat, calm conditions, but certainly a day or two where we know there are going to be significant numbers. As soon as we get to that point, don't worry, we'll be over the other side of the Channel looking for this tactic and whether it's being enacted or not.
Well, Mark, we look forward to that report.
We'll be wading into the water.
Well, do stay safe. Do stay safe there. But thank you indeed for bringing us all of that. Now, just a reminder that friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll by scanning the QR code that has magically appeared on screen just by Dawn's shoulder. And we're asking, who should take responsibility for stopping the small boats? Is it France or is it Britain? So far, 37% say Britain, 63% have said France.
Indeed, so keep them coming in. Now, there is only a few weeks left until Christmas. Yeah, I'm excited. And time is running out for you to enjoy it all on us. It's a great prize, it really is.
And today is the final day. I think 4 p.m. is the final time.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
That was my line.
There's no time to lose.
It's at 4 o'clock today. You've got to get a wriggle on. Come on, it is now, you do this, 23 minutes past 1. In any case, here's all the details.
There's just 27 days until Christmas, and it's the final day to see how you can enjoy it on us. That's £30,000 in tax-free cash to make 2026 fantastic. A further £10,000 cash to spend on gifts for all the family, the tree and decorations. £1,000 in vouchers to buy a slap-up Christmas lunch at your favourite supermarket. And finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. Plus, we're going to get it all to you in time for the big day. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 8th of December. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yeah, we were talking about those French places, Calais, Dunkirk. Well, this one's Toulouse. No time to lose. Just 3 hours to get those entries.
I can't believe he was joking he was going to do that. He actually went and did it. In any case, it's a cracker of a Christmas. Hey. And it could be yours. And the baubles, by the way, are really good. I do like
shiny.
The baubles. Yeah. 4 o'clock this afternoon, so don't waste any time. It really could be a brilliant Christmas.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News, and there's plenty more to come.
Donald Trump vows to halt immigration from what he calls all third world countries. We debate whether the UK should do the same. But after the break, Tom...
Yes, the army shrinks again with fewer fully trained soldiers than at any point in the last 200 years. What does this mean for our security?
Spoiler alert, not great. All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. Don't you dare move the muscle. We'll see you very soon.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company. Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 28 minutes past 1. Now, new figures show that the armed forces have grown by just 240 troops in the past year. This despite the government's recruitment drive.
Yeah, they seem to have the opposite effect everything they want, don't they? That leaves the number of fully trained soldiers at its smallest level in more than 200 years. And it comes as France announces a return of a form of national service as part of its push to prepare for potential threats from Russia.
And at least 200 years ago, we had a decent navy. I mean, that's the thing.
I remember it well, Tom.
Traditionally, we haven't had, you know, the largest sort of standing army, but we've at least had a massive navy. Don't have one of those anymore either.
No, I know, we are in trouble, aren't we? Anyway, so joining us now is retired British Army officer Tim Cross. Tim, good to see you. What do you make of this? It sounds really worrying to me.
Well, sadly, it's not true. I mean, this has been going on for a long time. Post-Cold War, of course, peace dividends and all of that, and a big reduction in the size and shape of the military. But over the last few years, I think this has got worse. And the trouble is, you reach a point where it's a downward spiral. I've got lots of contacts, obviously, in the military, and a lot of my contacts are telling me that because recruiting is so poor and the numbers are falling, those who are serving are being called upon to fill all sorts of gaps. They're getting very fed up with that, and the retention rates are also falling. So this is in a way, coming together of two issues. One is we're not recruiting enough people, and secondly, we're losing a lot of people. So the size and shape of the Army and the Navy, indeed the Air Force, is falling. And there has to be a change in process. Something has to change in this, otherwise it's not going to get any better.
So, Tim, what is the problem with recruitment? Why don't people want to join the armed forces anymore?
Well, in a way, I'm not the right bloke to ask, obviously, because I joined a long time ago, 20 years after D-Day. Wow. But, the bottom line is you've got to inspire young people with a reason to join the military. You've got to give them, leadership, inspirational leadership, saying this is a great career. You will have, you'll meet and work with tremendous people, and you're making a serious positive difference to this, to the world, in inverted commas, to our nation and to our foreign policy and so on. Now,
do you think there was a more credible argument, Tim, to make in the wake of the Second World War, when, of course, we in this country had stood alone against fascism and communist tyranny and freed Europe, or at least half of Europe at that time, from that sort of tyranny? And then again in the 1980s, we had tremendous successes. I mean, we liberated the Falkland Islands, showed what we could do as a country, again, standing alone. It seems that not really since 1982 have we had one of those grand moments of sort of national fervour and heroism from our armed forces. Does that make it harder?
Yes, it does. And it also, sadly, we've had 20 years, probably 20 years plus, of an awful lot of people in the media and elsewhere decrying our national history, our heritage, the whole business of the empire and colonialism and so forth. So, a lot of youngsters have grown up in an era, the last 20 years, 25 years, have grown up in an era where they're taught to be ashamed of our history. And they don't like the fact that, some of the things we're talking about here, are a reality. So that's why I say you have to change the narrative. The other thing it has to be said is we've got an awful lot of young people who are not employed at the moment. We know that. And I think this whole conversation has been going on some time about should we bring back some sort of national service, not just for the military, but for other aspects of our society as well. I think is a conversation that needs to be had, and we need to be saying to our young people, you're part of a nation, a society that needs you and needs your commitment, and that includes the military, but it includes other stuff too.
Tim, the French are doing that very thing, aren't they? It's a voluntary national service. Would you support the government doing something similar in this country?
Well, I would, but these things again, and there are no simple answers to this. We haven't got an army big enough to go back to the old style of national service. Tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of young people joining, because you have to house them somewhere. You've got to train them. You've got to give them their equipment, etc., etc. The numbers in France are pretty small, but it's not a bad place to start. And as I say, I don't think it should just be in the military, because I think that there's a wider conversation to be had here about civil society and how our young people contribute to that. But yeah, I would be in favour of that. And I think, again, as I say, it's far better to have that in place than to have so many of our young people who've not been in work, are not employed, and actually from a self-confidence point of view, that does terrible harm, I think, to young people. So, yeah, we've got to tackle this from both ends.
No, absolutely. I think many people will agree with you there, specifically on the point of so many people now, young people, able-bodied people out of work, on out-of-work benefits. I mean, surely an army programme could be a lot better for them, for their mental health and for the country. Tim Cross, thanks indeed for talking to us there. Retired British Army officer, of course. Thank you.
I just want to read one message out. Do keep them coming in, by the way. This is from Martin. Tom and Dawn, my son-in-law flies Typhoons for the RAF. Train drivers earn more than he does, totally undervalued. And I think that sums up one of the problems we face with the military at the moment.
Yeah. God, what do you think is the more technologically difficult task?
Well, the one that's going to risk your life more. I know what the answer to that one is. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. But first, it is news headlines with Tatiana.
Thank you. The top stories. The Labour government's facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of such operations. A robber who kicked and punched a pensioner before taking off with a cottage pie has been jailed for life for his murder. And Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. It comes a day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C., one of whom sadly died. Those are the latest headlines for now. More from me at 2 o'clock.
You can now watch GB News live across the United States of America and the world on Truth Plus. Scan the QR code to find out more, or visit gbnews.com/truth.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. And there is loads more coming up on today's show.
Yes, the President of the United States vows to halt immigration from what he calls third world countries. We'll debate whether the UK should do the same.
All of that and much more to come. This is GB News, Britain's news channel. We'll see you very soon.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a windy day out there today, particularly towards the northwest. That wind bringing plenty of heavy showers in, again, particularly to the northwest, but some drier and brighter spells also in between the spells of wet weather. We've got low pressure to the north, bringing this strong west to northwesterly wind, although the winds peaking during the morning and then easing into the afternoon across northwest Scotland. Still a blustery day. And the showers merging to longer spells of heavy rain across the north and west of Scotland, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland. Also showers moving through much of England and Wales, but interspersed by some sunshine. Feeling cool in the wind, however, temperatures above average in the south, closer to average in the north, and that means we will see some mountain snow for Scotland as these bands of rain move through, but heavy rain at lower levels, even some hail for the north and west of Scotland in some of the heavier showers as we end the day. This spell of rain pushing into the north and west of Northern Ireland, a heavy downpour for many, and for much of England and Wales during the evening, a quieter break from the weather with clear spells for many and mostly dry, but we have got the next system soon pushing rain into parts of the southwest and Wales overnight. Those heavy outbreaks of rain moving swiftly across the southern third of the UK, particularly heavy across parts of Wales and the southwest along with stronger winds. I think drier for Scotland and Northern Ireland, frost in places particularly for the north of Scotland, albeit with some showers into the far north. But it's across the southern half of the UK, particularly in England and Wales, where we're going to see the wettest weather during Saturday morning. Spells of heavy rain moving their way eastwards across the country, replaced by showers later on, along with gusty winds, clearer and colder for Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Thank you, Britain, for making us the fastest growing news website in the UK. We're truly humbled, and we couldn't have done it without you.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Road users should be cautious on the M90 Friarton Bridge due to high winds. Traffic congestion affects the A470 southbound at Corriton, while a broken down vehicle causes lane closures on the M1 northbound at junction 29A in Derbyshire. Delays occur on the M6 southbound at junction 23 due to a lane closure. The A1M southbound between junctions 2 and 3 in Northumbria has a 20-minute delay. Lane closures are on the M48 westbound between junctions 1 and 2 in South Gloucestershire. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast services between Coventry and Rugby face disruptions. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 39 minutes past 1, and President Donald Trump has promised to permanently pause migration from all third world countries after 2 National Guard members were shot in Washington, D.C. by an Afghan suspect.
The president said he would terminate millions of admissions under Joe Biden and remove anyone who is not a net asset to the United States.
Well, the 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom was shot dead in the ambush. Trump said that fellow Guardsman Andrew Wolf is still fighting for his life.
Sarah was 20 years old, by the way. Ridiculous. We are joined now by political commentator Paul Connew. Paul, obviously, it's a horrible story. I mean, that young girl's lost her life. So thoughts with her family, obviously, but Trump's statement overnight that permanently pause migration from third world countries, get rid of people that don't serve any purpose to America. What do you make of his comments?
It's typical Trumpian draconian reaction. I mean, look, this was a horrific offence. But we don't know. But we don't know whether Ramanal Lakhanwal, who was the former Afghan military who served with the CIA and the US military, and apparently it was highly regarded. We don't know whether he's now a terrorist convert or whether he is somebody who has got mental health problems who happens to be an Afghan. We don't know that. So I think it's typical Trump making a sweeping reaction.
Paul, I suppose it is reasonable to suggest that if someone comes from a very deprived or war-torn part of the world, if someone has seen horrific things, has been subject to gang warfare and all the rest of it, well, maybe they're more likely to have those sorts of schizophrenic attitudes, those mental health, pro-violence ways of being. I suppose a temporary pause could allow for some assessment to be done.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump says he wants to assess every one of the 77,000 Afghans who were granted who served with the US or supported the US and were allowed into America. Under the Biden administration, admittedly, although it was a bipartisan agreement between the Democrats and the Republicans, and in fact, Lakhanwal got his asylum application granted this year under the Trump administration. So, I mean, I think you've got to be careful about sweeping generalizations here. Are they going to go through every single Afghan? Because as far as I'm concerned, I'm not aware of many violent attacks committed by Afghans who got into America under the agreement of serving alongside US troops and alongside the CIA. And apparently his former commanding officer spoke highly of him when he arrived in the US. So it's a mystery still about whether this man is a terrorist convert or whether he is somebody who has mental health problems, which are, and I don't think you can make a sweeping generalization. And Donald Trump saying everybody who comes in from any third world country should be reassessed. I mean, that's a bit. I mean, how you achieve that practically is a huge challenge, and it would also be open to vast legal challenges too.
Paul, I mean, the tough border controls with the border between America and Mexico have seen border crossings at their lowest level since the 1970s. So the tough border control that Trump is talking about here, if you water it down slightly, does that make sense?
Well, it's easier for America than Britain, in fact, because we're an island with with the channel between us. It's easier to control people who are coming across the southern border for the US. But
Paul, could that make sense just for a second? We're an island. We've got a moat that God gave us as the United Kingdom. America has thousands of miles of land border. Why is it easier to defend a land border than it is to defend an island, which for thousands of years has been our natural defence?
Well, the Americans have succeeded, but they've succeeded because it is easy. It is easier.
Paul, I think you might be misunderstanding this. Is it not the case that it's easier for America, not because of geography? The geography makes it harder for them. It's much more to defend. It's a much longer and easier stretch of land to cross. The difference is America is not in the ECHR. The difference is America has much more supremacy over its own lawmaking.
But they've also deployed a very large, mobilisation in there to actually tackle people crossing the border. So, in a sense, I think they've been more effective than we are. But our problem is the small boat situation, which is very, 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 very difficult. I mean, I'm
only because of the law, not because of the practicalities.
Well, no, it's both, isn't it? I mean, I'm very supportive of the tougher line taken by our new Home Secretary. So I'm no supporter of illegal immigration, but I don't quite think the idea that we can simply follow Donald Trump's tactics on this. I just don't think it works. We've got to sort out our problems, not suddenly do a knee-jerk reaction to a sweeping post on Truth Social by Donald Trump, which I think is one of those. So often with Donald Trump, he has to row back, or simply the boasts about what he's going to do simply can't be applied.
Paul, just quickly and finally, there are some that are saying by just using the phrase third world countries, Donald Trump is displaying a level of racism. What would you say to that?
Well, I think there's a level there. In fact, I think that's absolutely true. You know, to simply single out the third countries en masse. You know, and I think that is the sort of tone which Trump at times does strike. In fact, you know, a racist tone, and it's being attacked by the Democrats and some Republicans who don't like the tone he's struck. So, you know, I don't think this is a lesson for us to take. This is a terrible case, and obviously until we know the background to it, I think it's very dangerous to start reacting and saying this is a brilliant idea by Donald Trump, and some people are suggesting we should actually follow his lead. It doesn't apply in the same way in the UK.
Paul, thank you very much. We have run out of time on that one. That is political commentator Paul Connew there for us. Obviously, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say.
And here's something else for you. Yes, this Christmas we're putting on a really exciting event. We want loads of you there too.
Yeah, on Saturday, the 13th of December, you're invited to join the GB News family for our Carols by Candlelight concert. For your chance to be with us, all you do is simply scan the QR code on your screen right now, or go to gbnews.com/carols. The concert will be broadcast on Christmas Eve.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come, including a very special whiteboard explainer from yours truly.
You really don't want to miss this one. It includes diagrams, stickmen, everything that Tom does so well. But if you are in search of some holiday sun just to escape Tom's stickmen, I don't blame you. Here's a forecast for some of those top European holiday destinations.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The heavy rain across parts of Greece due to Storm Adele is now moving into Turkey. We could see some high rainfall totals building up. There's going to be some thunder mixed in, even some large hail as well. Further west, and a few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy. Elsewhere, mostly dry. Much of Spain actually largely dry, similar for southern France. But some wet weather pushing into northwestern parts of Spain and also Portugal, and that will feed further southeastwards through the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Just went for an insurance check. You know, in our business, you have to have a check before you do any new program, so you don't drop down dead on the program. And it was all very relaxed, as always, chatting with the doctor and all that. And then he phoned me up the next day and said, "Well, it's slightly worrying. Your PSA is a bit high." I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "Well, it measures the levels of the potential antigens for prostate cancer that you've got." He said, "You'll have to go to a specialist." I went to the specialist and he said, "Yes, you have got very early stages of the indications of prostate cancer." And of course, it felt like my life had collapsed immediately. You know, I was writing the will, I was doing everything. Well, the reality is he was quite cheery about it. He said, "Look, you're likely to die with this. You're not going to die of it, provided that we keep an eye on it all the time, make sure it doesn't flare up." And so ever since then, this, what I thought was going to be this terrible thing 12 years ago, all it means is that every 4 or 6 months, I have to get a check. That's all. But the good news is, and I've been listening to you for the last 20 minutes thinking, oh my God, what a terrible world we're living in. Everything's wrong. I have a great Christmas message for you. Hold on to your seats. If you want to have a check prostate cancer, you no longer have to have a finger up your bum. Yes! Isn't that the best thing you've heard all day?
Well, that is, but it's funny that we laugh about it, and so we should really, but that is the big obstacle, isn't it? It's the one thing that puts people off.
Yeah, well, it's gone. It's floated away. Those fingers have floated up to the heavens. All you need to do now is have one of those tiny little blood tests, you know, pinprick in your arm, and they go away and check it and make sure you're all right.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. It is 9 minutes nearly to our 2 o'clock. It's time for Tom's favourite bit of the show, the whiteboard. Tom is going to attempt to explain the black hole scandal in less than a minute, or is it 3 minutes? Who knows? But Tom, are you ready?
I am so ready. I've actually prepared writing down some dates here because otherwise it'll all be too much of a rush. Tell me when to go.
Now, just get on with it.
Boom. Right, OK, do you remember when the big black hole discussion began? Yes, this was actually on the 15th of September. The Financial Times reported that there was to be a black hole. Productivity had been downgraded in this country and therefore the Chancellor had to fill a massive black hole. But here's the news that we have now learnt. That on the 17th of September, the OBR sent a message to the Chancellor saying that tax receipts were actually higher than they had first thought. Now, this discounted the black hole because those tax receipts were, they'd said actually on the 31st of October, they were even bigger because of inflation, that the Chancellor had way more money than she thought she did. But yet, on the 4th of December, Rachel Reeves still, this is Rachel Reeves, and this is a podium, and she's standing there, she still gave that podium speech saying, look, there's no money at all, we're going to have to raise your taxes. This is despite there being more money. So this missed out this.
Well done, Tom. It's all as clear as mud still, but thank you very much. And the picture of Rachel Reeves there was a cracker. I'm sure she'd be absolutely thrilled by that one. Thank you very much, Tom. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's loads more coming up on today's show, so don't you dare move a muscle. I think we might have another whiteboard moment because I'm going to make him do one in any case because he did promise to draw a ghost on that one, but there is more to come. OK,
Dawn, here you go. I was going to do, there was no time, but of course the 31st of October, when the Chancellor was told by the OBR, this is your wibbly wobbly ghost. I've just drawn it on nicely there. There's a nice wibbly wobbly ghost for you. The whole point is that the tax rises were unnecessary because the black hole was, as you can clearly see explained here, overridden by the tax receipts.
Tom, brilliant, thank you very much. Shall we have some weather?
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there, welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a windy day out there today, particularly towards the northwest. That wind bringing plenty of heavy showers in, again, particularly to the northwest, but some drier and brighter spells also in between the spells of wet weather. We've got low pressure to the north, bringing this strong west to northwesterly wind, although the winds peaking during the morning and then easing into the afternoon across northwest Scotland. Still a blustery day. And the showers merging to longer spells of heavy rain across the north and west of Scotland, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland. Also showers moving through much of England and Wales, but interspersed by some sunshine. Feeling cool in the wind, however, temperatures above average in the south, closer to average in the north, and that means we will see some mountain snow for Scotland as these bands of rain move through, but heavy rain at lower levels, even some hail for the north and west of Scotland in some of the heavier showers as we end the day. This spell of rain pushing into the north and west of Northern Ireland, a heavy downpour for many, and for much of England and Wales during the evening, a quieter break from the weather with clear spells for many and mostly dry, but we have got the next system soon pushing rain into parts of the southwest and Wales overnight. Those heavy outbreaks of rain moving swiftly across the southern third of the UK, particularly heavy across parts of Wales and the southwest along with stronger winds. I think drier for Scotland and Northern Ireland, frost in places, particularly for the north of Scotland, albeit with some showers into the far north. But it's across the southern half of the UK, particularly in England and Wales, where we're going to see the wettest weather during Saturday morning. Spells of heavy rain moving their way eastwards across the country, replaced by showers later on, along with gusty winds, clearer and colder for Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversations.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bo, they are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. This is Good Afternoon, Britain on GB News. Indeed, it's now 2 o'clock on Friday, the 28th of November. I'm Tom Harwood.
You remembered that bit. Well done, Tom. Well done. And I'm Dawn Neeson. I remembered that bit. And thank you for your company.
Absolutely. Now, France moves closer to pushing small boats back to shore. Officials say senior regional authorities have now signed off on the plan.
So all eyes are on the French. We're told that there will be a weather window, hopefully, next week sometime. Will the French make good on their pushback promise?
And in other news, day one sacking protections axed from Angela Rayner's workers' rights plan. Is this yet another Labour U-turn?
And we must take all necessary measures to ensure the removal of any alien from any country who does not belong here or add benefit to our country.
President Trump vows to permanently pause migration from so-called third world countries hours after an Afghan man is charged in the fatal shooting of a US soldier in Washington, D.C.
And a near record exodus of under 35s as Labour's tax hikes bite. So is there opportunity in the UK at all today for youngsters?
And indeed, it's Black Friday, the post-Thanksgiving American shopping frenzy that kicks off the Christmas season. And increasingly happens in this country too. We'll all have all the mayhem and the shopping frenzy. Also this lunchtime, of course, the astonishing news that there wasn't a black hole after all, that all of the tax rises, the almost £30 billion more in tax that this Chancellor has imposed upon working people in this country, it wasn't to fill a black hole, it wasn't to settle the money markets, it was to spend more money that the Chancellor didn't have to spend.
And mainly on the benefits system. Yesterday, we were told that it was all going into the NHS, and it's not. The vast majority of that, percentage-wise, is going into the benefit system.
And here's the thing. Back when the Chancellor gave that extraordinary press conference, she blamed the dire situation in this country on Brexit, on the Tories, on Donald Trump, on just about everything else in the world apart from Rachel Reeves. And she said, we're going to have to raise taxes, in effect, because the situation is so bad. Well, now we learn, actually, inflation was so high that fiscal drag had increased tax receipts. She knew at the moment that she was saying, you're all going to have to pay more tax, she knew that that was a lie, because her tax receipts were higher than everyone else had assumed. And that means all of the tax raises from Wednesday, they're all voluntary, they're all her choice. None of it had to happen.
So the pain she has put, not just her, the government, she's got a boss, remember, Keir Starmer, I believe he's called at the moment. So the pain she has put pensioners through, parents of disabled children through, farmers through, and young people who are struggling to get on the housing ladder, etc., etc. The pain she's putting people through was unnecessary.
It was political. It's entirely political. It's what Labour does. Whenever a Labour government gets in, it taxes more and it spends more. She wanted to spend more, so she raised all of our taxes. She didn't have to spend more. There was nothing forcing her to spend more, so she invented this lie of a black hole so that she could get some political cover for her tax increases. But it's all come crumbling down less than 48 hours after the budget.
The budget fallout will continue for a long time after this one, but do let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say, because this programme is all about you. If you're as angry as Tom is, and indeed I am, I wouldn't blame you at all, because the more you hear about this, the worse it gets. I mean, you know, farmers have taken their own lives over that inheritance tax thing there. So it's... Anyway, let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your say. All of this coming up after the news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Dawn, thank you. The top stories. The Labour government is facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. Business groups voiced concerns it would discourage firms from hiring. The government argued it was making the climb down to stop its employment legislation being delayed in the House of Lords. This comes as warnings grow that Rachel Reeves' budget will deliver lacklustre growth and truly dismal living standards, with millions said to be worse off due to stealth tax rises. Shadow Business Secretary Andrew Griffith spoke to GB News this morning.
go and tax people more, you undermine incentives to build a business. Someone builds a business and then you tax them when they try and pass it on to their children with the family business death tax. No wonder we've got an anemic economy where we found out yesterday that 250,000 people are leaving, 100,000 of them, some of our youngest, bestest and brightest. You've got to invert all of this. If a government was serious about growth, it wouldn't be pursuing the Employment Rights Bill, the Bill for Unemployment, and it would not have absolutely done the budget that we heard about on Wednesday, which is on the side of welfare, on the side of the public sector, very cosseted, but not on the side of people who get up and work hard in the morning or small businesses.
Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson says the decision to abandon Day One workers' rights against unfair dismissal does not break Labour's manifesto.
We said in our manifesto that we wanted to bring forward important Day One protections. We also said that we consult with business and trade unions and others to make that happen, and we've done that. So there's been a pragmatic way forward that's been found. There will still be a big improvement around unfair dismissal rights. No longer 2 years you have to wait in order to make a claim, but down to 6 months. That means we can continue with the passage of the bill through Parliament. It means that from next April, we hope that so many of those rights will be delivered, and that will make a huge difference to working people.
Now, breaking news this hour that 2 teenagers who were accused of attempting to rape a schoolgirl in County Antrim in an incident which led to sustained racially motivated rioting in Northern Ireland in June are to have the charges withdrawn. The boys, aged 14 and 15, were accused of attempting to rape the girl on the 7th of June. In a previous court hearing, there were claims she was dragged down an alleyway into a garage but escaped when her would-be attackers were disturbed and ran off. However, the Public Prosecution Service was granted permission to end criminal proceedings against the pair due to significant evidential developments at Belfast Youth Court today. The teenagers will be now released from the Juvenile Detention Centre where they have been held for more than 5 months. Elsewhere, French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel. That's following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of these operations. It comes as French newspaper Le Monde says they've obtained an official document signed by 4 prefects responsible for beaches around Calais and Dunkirk, from which thousands of migrants head off to England every day. Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. The US president wrote in a Truth Social post that the decision would allow the US system to fully recover from immigration policies that had eroded the gains and living conditions of many Americans. He didn't provide details of his plan or name which countries might be affected. Donald Trump's comments come a day after an Afghan national is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C. The president paid tribute to 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom as a highly respected and magnificent person. She was one of the 2 Guard members shot on Wednesday. The other National Guard member, Andrew Wolfe, who was attacked, remains in a critical condition. The suspected gunman is in a serious condition. He drove thousands of miles from his home in Washington state to carry out the attack, according to a US attorney. A robber who kicked and punched a pensioner before taking off with a cottage pie has been jailed for life for his murder. 87-year-old John Mackey was targeted by Peter Augustine after he visited a Co-op store in North London on the 6th of May. 59-year-old Augustine has been sentenced today to serve a minimum term of 23 years. Mr. Mackey was treated in hospital for bleeding on the brain and broken ribs, but died from his injuries 2 days later. And the Prince of Wales has backed the UK's bid to host the Women's Football World Cup in 2035. Posting on X, Prince William said these were exciting times. The Prince is a passionate football fan and patron of the FA. If the bid is successful, it would be the first Football World Cup hosted in the UK since 1966 and the largest single sport event ever staged in the country. The bid includes 22 proposed stadiums, 16 in England, 3 in Wales, 2 in Scotland and 1 in Northern Ireland across 16 host cities. Manchester United's proposed new Old Trafford Stadium is one of the venues included in the UK's bid. And those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, there's more news in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a look at the markets. The pound will buy you $1.3217 and €1.1426. The price of gold is £3,159.47 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 9,706 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 10 minutes past 2. Now, French police are reportedly preparing to start intercepting migrant boats in the Channel after months of disputes with the UK over the risks involved.
It follows a report in Le Monde which says it has obtained an official document signed by regional leaders around Calais and Dunkirk, the beaches where thousands of migrants set off from.
Well, let's get more with Mark White, our Home and Security Editor. Mark, I mean, it does feel like I've heard this story before. What's different now?
Well, that's because you have heard it before for 8 months since this was first announced by Sir Keir Starmer in April of this year. But it seems that we are now in according to Le Monde anyway, a reputable publication, that we are in the phase of this being implemented, that it has been signed off by the 4 prefectures along that Channel coastline between Dunkirk and Calais down towards Boulogne, where most of these small boats set off from. So the next spell of good weather will be the sort of proof of the pudding, really, to see whether actually any boats that go, in particular the taxi boats, are pushed back. Now, the taxi boats are these boats that come down the river tributaries and then hover offshore with about 20 migrants or so on board, with the view to pulling the remaining 60 passengers onto the boats who wade out into the water. They are seen by the French and the British as the best opportunity to push back these small boats because they sit there in shallow water for a period of time. That gives the police maritime prefecture or maritime gendarmerie in their rigid inflatables the best chance to sort of push those small boats back onto the shore, providing it's shallow water, providing it's calm conditions. We're expecting maybe about the middle of next week, conditions will calm down enough. It can change at this time of the year, of course, but on current sort of weather forecasts, it's going to calm down enough for there to be beach launches.
So, Mark, let me get this right. You've got boats packed with mostly very angry young men. Many of them will potentially be armed. We do know that some of them are criminals coming over on these boats. And a boat of how many police are meant to stop this?
Yeah, well, they're only angry, obviously, if they are being stopped. They are determined to get to the UK. We've seen it before with the tactic of trying to intervene and puncture the boats. That half a dozen police officers, which is usually the sort of unit that would respond to a boat being launched, trying to go in and coming up against 100 mainly young men determined to get to the UK, it can go south pretty quickly and has. We've been told of multiple incidents where French police have been pelted with whatever the migrants have to hand. Some of the migrants have been armed with knives as well. So some French police and migrants have been injured in these clashes. And there's no doubt that even trying to implement the tactic at sea, it will be a fairly robust tactic. There's no way that the migrants won't try to fight back to try and ensure that they can get off in their boat towards the Channel proper and across towards the UK. So it could be messy, and that's why the French maritime unions have been quite opposed to this tactic, simply because they don't think, and they may well be right here, that French politicians will have the backs of the French police involved should this go wrong. So that's why they're advising against the tactic.
OK. Mark White, thanks indeed for bringing us that, and we'll have to keep a close eye on how it does actually develop out there in the Channel in the real world.
OK, and just a reminder, friends of GB News can vote in today's You Decide poll by scanning the QR code you can see on your screen now. And we are asking who should take responsibility for stopping the small boats, France or Britain? 37% of you so far are saying Britain and 63% are saying France. So do keep those votes coming. QR code on your screen now.
Now, in political news, Rachel Reeves has been accused of misleading the country after new documents revealed that she claimed there was a black hole in public finances, even though the OBR figures showed there wasn't one.
Yeah, the watchdog reportedly told the Chancellor she actually had a £4.2 billion surplus weeks before her budget, despite her public warnings of challenges and the need for tax rises.
Well, we're now joined by GB News chief political correspondent Catherine Forster. Catherine, this is a fairly extraordinary revelation.
Yes, it really is. And hot on the heels, of course, from many people feeling that the government misled them before the general election when they said there'd be no big tax rises, misled them again when they said after last year's budget that they wouldn't need to do it again, and then did it again. But now, the very serious accusation that the Treasury and the Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, misled the public, the press, and the markets over a black hole that it turns out did not exist, because we had for weeks and weeks and weeks these briefings that there was a 20 to 30 billion pound black hole in the public finances that were going to lead to difficult choices. Rachel Reeves stood up on November the 4th and basically implied that she was going to raise income tax. In the end, it didn't happen because they said that the facts had in fact changed. But we now find out that in fact, back on the 17th of September, the Office for Budget Responsibility told the Treasury and the Chancellor that although there had been a £16 billion downgrade in the finances because of poor productivity and various other reasons, that had been largely offset by big tax receipts because of inflation and all the rest of it. And so this gap wasn't really much at all. And then they revised that a couple of weeks later on the 31st of October and said that, in fact, not only was there not a black hole, they actually had £4.2 billion to play with. So the black hole did not exist. Now, this is something that some of us spotted yesterday. The Institute for Fiscal Studies, I was at a briefing of theirs, and they said this. They said that there was no fiscal repair job. This is very different to what we've been hearing. And I said to the Prime Minister's official spokesman in lobby yesterday, admit these are choices you made. You didn't have to put these taxes up. You did it because you wanted to spend money on welfare and other things. And they said, look, we made choices. We wanted that buffer zone. They've increased their headroom but to 22 billion. That's some of it. But also, look, they have spent billions on welfare, lifting the two-child benefit cap, the 5 billion that they wanted to cut from welfare that they couldn't, and so on and so forth. These are choices that they made, and the whole notion that there was a black hole that they had to fill has been disproved. I'm sort of lost for words. I know I've just said loads, but it is quite staggering.
Just very quickly. So yesterday when you spoke to them, they were aware that there was, they had wriggle room. They didn't have to put taxes up as they had. And yet, in the budget, they were still claiming there was a black hole and taxes had to go up. Is there any way Rachel Reeves would have misunderstood the advice she was given about the financial wriggle room she had?
I think there's going to be very intense scrutiny now on the Treasury and the Chancellor in particular as to what they were told, because we know that the Office for Budget Responsibility on the 17th of September basically said that the downgrades had been offset largely by tax rises, and on the 31st of October, the Treasury were told they actually had £4.2 billion plus. And yet Rachel Reeves went in front of the press, in front of the nation, talking about the downgrades, talking about difficult decisions that were coming. No mention at all of the fact that, in fact, there was a huge windfall from what the IFS called, I can't remember, but staggering tax receipts.
Yes, and that's all because inflation was higher than anyone had expected. And so the fiscal drag, actually, that the Tories started with freezing those thresholds, dragged more people into higher tax bands. And so whether it was VAT, because prices are higher in the shops, that's up. Income tax, because people have been dragged into higher tax brackets, that's up. There was this bumper lot of tax, and they just didn't say a word about it.
It's either staggering stupidity or staggering... Well, I don't want to go down that road, to be honest with you. Catherine Forster, thank you very much for joining us. OK, now we're going to go and speak to former editor of Labour List, Peter Edwards. Peter, is this incompetence or are we being lied to? What's going on?
Well, I must say, I thought Tom was a bit cavalier earlier, throwing around the word lie. No, there are enormous fiscal challenges. Britain has had a deficit annually every year for 20 years.
You don't think the government have lied to us at all?
Not at all. And let me answer. The last time Britain ran a budget surplus was in the early 2000s when Gordon Brown was Chancellor. Rachel Reeves said there are fiscal challenges. That's true. If anything, that's an understatement. The deficit's been hovering above or below £100 billion. The national debt, the accumulation of all the deficits, is around about £2 billion. We haven't run a budget surplus for 20 years. I mean, for Rachel Reeves to say there are fiscal challenges is a statement of bleeding obvious. She's 100% right.
Yeah, completely fair in what you say there. Absolutely. No one's talking about a balanced budget anywhere close, sadly. But we're talking about Rachel Reeves's fiscal rules and whether or not the country would be within those rules. Those rules give you a sort of buffer of how much you're allowed to borrow. Rachel Reeves gave these strong implications. She didn't say it in terms in that press conference, but there were leaks, there were Treasury leaks, and every paper, this channel, every news channel was talking about a big black hole that she would have to fill to meet her fiscal rules. It turns out that there wasn't one because she was already within her fiscal rules. Yes, not close to a surplus, of course, but within her fiscal rules, and she knew it all along.
Well, I don't accept that, and I must say I couldn't hear what Catherine Forster was saying, so clearly there's a response from number 11 Downing Street that I've not heard. But, you know, we've been running an annual deficit. And the other point that Rachel Reeves had to take into account was she didn't leave enough headroom last time. So for people who are not involved in this day-to-day, that's the amount of money the Treasurer keeps down the back of the sofa for global events like Trump tariffs, economic crisis, you know, weather and so on. And she had to increase her headroom. And that's before you get onto the political choices. And I take issue with one of the other points she made that, you know, Rachel Reeves didn't have to do the X or Y. Every Chancellor in British history makes political choices. That's the whole point of being Chancellor. She rightly reversed the two-child benefit cap, benefiting 450,000 kids. That was a political choice.
Yeah.
It costs money, but it's the correct one for life chances.
Look, I don't think we'd be having this argument today had Rachel Reeves stood at the last election and said, we want to do a lot of things that are going to cost a lot of money, so we're going to raise your taxes to do it. I mean, that's a completely legitimate political choice. It's a political choice that many left-wing parties around the world make at every election. It's how they campaign. The unique, strange thing about the last general election was that this Labour government says we're not going to do those left-wing things. We're not going to raise your taxes, and we're making no commitment to abolish the two-child law and all the rest of it. Now, the Tories said, oh, yes, you are. Oh, yeah, you're going to raise the taxes and you're going to spend all the money on the benefits and you're going to do all that. And they said, no, we're not going to do that. And as soon as they're in, that's exactly what they've done.
Labour exists to take people out of child poverty, and that's been the case from Clement Attlee to Gordon Brown and Blair to Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer today. So it's the right thing to do, first of all. Secondly, in terms of the child benefit cap, 60% of the families receiving that are in work, and the Tories, for ideological ideological reasons, want to create the split between workers and non-workers, which I think is very mean. Thirdly, there's nothing wrong with making political choices. Labour are elected to deliver a Labour budget. They were not, repeat, not elected to deliver continuity Sunakism.
If that's your argument, why didn't they make that at the election?
But they did. They honoured, and I recognise it's been hugely contentious, but they made a core pledge on tax not to raise a basic rate of income tax, VAT or employee national insurance contributions, and they stuck to that.
They raised national insurance contributions, and Rachel Reeves at the last budget said that she's not going to freeze thresholds because that would be a breach of the manifesto, a tax on working people, and that's what she's done.
She said that in opposition about thresholds, and since then...
She said that at the dispatch box in her last budget.
And we all know, has the global backdrop got better or worse since then? There's still a war in Europe. Trump's bringing in more tariffs. It looks like America's going to a full-blown trade war with China. The economic backdrop has got worse and worse. And as I said before, we're only beginning to feel the real pain of Brexit.
Can I just ask one final quick question? What's the point of the manifesto, Peter?
The point of a manifesto is to set out your intentions and your values, but the public aren't daft. They know that circumstances will change. But it's important to note, Labour has retained, it's honoured its core promise on tax.
Right, OK, you believe that?
Yep. Nix income tax and employee nix income tax and VAT. They've honoured that. It's hugely contentious. There's been a debate about it since the last budget, but on those three, they've honoured that point.
You corrected yourself there to say employee nix.
Yeah.
Because originally you said nix, because that's what the Labour Party said at the election, and then they changed it after the election to just employee nix.
OK, but put it this way. If that argument were correct, and I don't accept it, why is the primary opposition party and the Conservatives doing so badly? Why has no one taken that into account?
The primary opposition party at the moment in the polls is Reform, and they're 10 points ahead.
Reform are not going to win the general election. And I'm sure you'll play this against me in a year's time. It make me look daft. Reform are not going to win the general election. And we've seen scandal after scandal around Farage. There's not time to go through them now. It's a canary in the coal mine of future problems for Reform.
And Labour have had a few scandals themselves as well, we should point out.
Yeah.
OK, Peter.
That's politics.
Yeah, well, yeah.
We can agree on that.
Thank you very much, Peter. That's Peter Edwards, former editor of Labour List there.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more still to come.
Yeah, Britain is losing its young talent at an alarming rate. We'll debate what's driving them out and how to keep them. But after the break...
Donald Trump vows to halt immigration from what he calls third world countries. But what does that exactly mean? All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's coming up for 2:30. This is on GB News. We'll be speaking about Trump's migration ban from what he calls third world countries. But first, let's get the latest news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Dawn, thank you. The top stories this hour. The Labour government's facing accusations of 2 manifesto breaches in as many days after turning its back on a promise to protect workers from unfair dismissal from day one in a job. Ministers now plan to introduce the right after 6 months instead. French police are reportedly going to start stepping up intercepting migrant boats crossing the English Channel. It's following months of arguments with the UK over the danger of these operations. A robber who kicked and punched a pensioner before taking off with a cottage pie has been jailed for life for his murder. Donald Trump says he will permanently pause migration to the US from what he calls all third world countries. Now, this comes a day after an Afghan man is accused of shooting 2 members of the National Guard in Washington, D.C., one of whom sadly died. Those are the latest GB News headlines. For now, there's more news at 3 o'clock with Sophia Wensler.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. 31 minutes past 2 is now the time. Now, President Donald Trump has said he'll permanently pause migration from all third world countries after 2 National Guard members were shot in Washington, D.C.
In a post online late on Thanksgiving, the US president said he'll end all federal benefits and subsidies to non-citizens.
Well, joining us now is the US political journalist Laurie Laird. Laurie, this is a pretty stark set of announcements from the president. What does it mean in practice?
Yeah, and he really, I mean, Donald Trump last night took to social media and he is absolutely incensed. I think this ban on immigrants from third world countries, and third world countries are not easy to define, but it appears that there are 19 countries of concern that the White House mentioned in a proclamation that came out over the summer. And it includes countries like Venezuela, Cuba, Haiti, Afghanistan. And I think to say this satisfies, I think, the national need to be seen to do something. And certainly no politician in the U.S. or further afield will lose many votes by slamming immigration, by conflating immigrants with extra crime. So this is a political move. In terms of how to make sure this doesn't happen again, I think it's far too early. We don't know all that much about this particular person. Was there a failure of vetting? Certainly the suspect in this murder would have been vetted a number of times. He worked with the CIA in Afghanistan. He would have been vetted then. He would have been vetted when he first arrived in the US in 2021. He would have been vetted again when he was granted asylum by Donald Trump's government earlier this year. Was there a failure of vetting? The New York Times has quoted a childhood friend of the suspect as saying that he experienced some mental health problems after his service in Afghanistan. So we need to know more about the vetting process. We need to know whether he was radicalized once he was in the U.S. Did he have co-conspirators? I think any response needs to take in account of lots of bits of information that we don't yet have.
Laurie, I mean, permanently pausing migration from third world countries, how easy would it be for Donald Trump to even do that?
Not particularly easy at all. I don't know if the government has the manpower to do this, although the immigration authorities are one area of government that is adding jobs and adding jobs quite quickly. But in terms of administering this, that's a very good question. The other thing that Donald Trump has promised is to look at all green card holders. This is a form of permanent residency in the U.S. How to go through that, how to evaluate that is a very big question. There are 190,000 Afghans who have been resettled in the U.S. Add to that people who have been resettled from there's 18 other countries. Administratively, that's going to be pretty difficult to do. I think one thing that is noticeably absent, Don, in this debate, we're talking about whether immigrants from these third world countries can be responsible members of society. One thing we're not discussing is, how did this man get his gun? Did he get it in Washington State where he lived? There are fairly strict gun laws in Washington State. The one thing we're not discussing in conjunction with this tragedy is America ever going to be prepared to look at gun laws to prevent guns from getting into the hands of unstable people?
I suppose it's an easier point of discussion because there isn't a constitutional prevention of stopping unstable people coming into your country, but there is a constitutional prevention against limiting the right to bear arms.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, this is politically very, very difficult, despite the fact that more than 2/3 of Americans say they'd like to see stricter gun laws, not necessarily a ban, but certainly more controls on guns. But politically, it's absolutely toxic. We're not going to see any government take a look at this. As I say, Washington
and Laurie,
State...
ironically, whenever a member of any government or senior member of a party starts talking about gun control, gun sales go through the roof. And America, I mean, it's easy for us to talk about this in Britain because there just aren't many guns. I mean, sure, some farmers have some, but they're under lock and key and under licence and all the rest of it. I mean, there just aren't really guns in the UK, whereas there are more guns than people in the United States. So putting the genie back in the bottle is almost impossible.
Very much so. Even if the political will were there, I don't know how you get these guns out of people's hands. But certainly when we have seen stricter gun, states have authorities over guns to a certain extent. And in states where you see stricter provisions on giving people guns, you do tend to see less gun crime. Washington State does require background checks before people buy guns. And the gun homicide rate in Washington is a little bit lower than the national average. But you can see tinkering at the edges with gun laws at state and at local level. But as for a national, investigation of this or a national effort on this, we're nowhere near being able to do that.
OK, Laurie, thank you very much. That's US political journalist Laurie Laird there. And let's not forget that this is the death of Sarah Beckstrom, who was the National Guard. She was 20 years old. Yeah. That's prompted this outburst by Donald Trump. So thoughts with her family, obviously. Absolutely.
Well, there's lots more still to come on the show today.
Yes, Britain is losing its young talent at an alarming rate. We'll debate what's driving them now out and how to keep them here.
Well, all of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. It's a windy day out there today, particularly towards the northwest. That wind bringing plenty of heavy showers in, again, particularly to the northwest, but some drier and brighter spells also in between the spells of wet weather. We've got low pressure to the north, bringing this strong west to northwesterly wind, although the winds peaking during the morning and then easing into the afternoon across northwest Scotland. Still a blustery day. And the showers merging to longer spells of heavy rain across the north and west of Scotland, pushing into parts of Northern Ireland. Also showers moving through much of England and Wales, but interspersed by some sunshine. Feeling cool in the wind, however, temperatures above average in the south, closer to average in the north, and that means we will see some mountain snow for Scotland as these bands of rain move through, but heavy rain at lower levels, even some hail for the north and west of Scotland in some of the heavier showers as we end the day. This spell of rain pushing into the north and west of Northern Ireland, a heavy downpour for many, and for much of England and Wales during the evening, a quieter break from the weather with clear spells for many. and mostly dry, but we have got the next system soon, pushing rain into parts of the southwest and Wales overnight. Those heavy outbreaks of rain moving swiftly across the southern third of the UK, particularly heavy across parts of Wales and the southwest, along with stronger winds. I think drier for Scotland and Northern Ireland. Frost in places, particularly for the north of Scotland, albeit with some showers into the far north. But it's across the southern half of the UK, particularly in England and Wales, where we're going to see the wettest weather during Saturday morning. Spells of heavy rain moving their way eastwards across the country, replaced by showers later on, along with gusty winds. Clearer and colder for Scotland and Northern Ireland.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 8 million followers across social media. Thank you for making us a part of your daily life.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M8 westbound, restrictions at junction 27 are due to a breakdown. The eastbound M4 accident causes disruptions from junction 24 Coldra to junction 23 Rogiette. In Redcar and Cleveland, the A174 eastbound entry slip has lane closures. The M6 southbound at junction 21A in Warrington faces a 30-minute delay due to a collision. In Hampshire, congestion on the A34 southbound between the A272 and the M3 junction leads to a 15-minute delay. And on the trains, Avanti West Coast faces disruptions between Coventry and Rugby. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's now 20 to 3, and we're losing our young workers in Britain at a record number. Yes, a record number of under 35s left last year.
One of them still here sitting next to me. According to the Office for... I love him, really. According to the Office for National Statistics, a net 110,000 British people aged 16 to 34 emigrated, accounting for 2/3 of all departing Brits.
Well, what we're asking today is there an opportunity for young people to do well in the UK anymore? And we're joined by the political commentator Fahima Mohammed. So thanks so much for being with us this afternoon. This is a crisis, is it not?
I think it's a bit of an exaggeration, because I think that a lot of young people that are actually leaving are usually the most mobile, with the most privileged. They usually are graduates with professional skills. They have savings and passports that let them get visas, for example, to Canada, Dubai or Australia. This isn't the single mom or universal credit suddenly fleeing high tax Britain. And if you can pick up and move to Dubai or Sydney, you're not the left behind. You're already in the top slice.
But hang on, isn't that worse? If we have high productivity people who could be earning a lot of money and paying a lot of tax, who are all leaving, and the people who are staying are the ones who are in receipt of tax benefits, I mean, that's a double whammy.
Well, I think at that age group, most people will explore if they have those skills and the money. And we absolutely have problems in specific sectors and regions. But this is not a country with no jobs. It's a country that with skills that are mismatched. So there's tech, social care, construction, green energy, logistics, teaching assistants, healthcare. These sectors are still hiring and still short of people. I think what we need to be clear here, the real question is that it's not about having no opportunity. Is are we helping young people stick with education and training long enough to benefit? And a lot of people who do move abroad chasing instant lifestyle, many of them drift back to the UK when they want degrees recognized, if they haven't got one already, family support and the welfare state that, is in the back when things go wrong. So you can't just say that, it's something that we are losing. I think that demographic, you are going to find, especially of the privilege, will move generally, but they will come back, and they normally do, especially with all the benefits that we do have in the UK, with such a huge amount of care and benefits and free state education, the strong labour protections that we have compared to other countries. And we also are on par with high taxes with the countries that people are moving to. It's just that they want to explore. And with that age group, they usually do.
Just on that point, I've been looking at the top rate of tax in the United States. It's 37%. and it kicks in at $626,000. Now, if you're in a couple, you can earn $751,000 before you get that 37% rate of tax. In the United Kingdom, you're earning £125,000 and you're whacked with 45% tax. I mean, it's just not true to say we've got similar tax rates to the countries that people are moving to. We are so much more taxed.
Well, in the US, you might pay less income tax, but you'll pay for it in medical bills, student loans, and no safety net if you lose your job. That's not freedom for most young people, that's stress. And often higher overall tax burden, in the UK, plus expensive housing is only in bigger cities. We have got tougher immigration rules that you're competing with the world of limited number of visas. And there's, you're thousands of miles away from family support and networks. And, Australia, Canada are great, but let's be honest, they're not magically low tax wonderlands. They're also high tax social democracies, very similar to us, with just maybe better sunshine.
Fahima, you are doing a very good job of selling the country and making it sound quite attractive, but the facts are that many youngsters are leaving and they're not coming back. The people that are coming back are now the older generation, my generation. Pensioners are coming back to the UK to retire. God knows why, I don't know myself.
Triple lock.
Yeah, thank you. But the fact is they're not coming back as often, as much as they used to. So what is going on? There is something here. Maybe it is a tax situation. Maybe it's the fact they've got huge amounts of debt from university. Maybe it's the fact they're never going to be able to afford their own home.
Well, I think that's just a very generalized viewpoint of they're never coming back. I actually coach people from DWP when it comes to employment, and I speak to a lot of young people who are actually, coming back from traveling abroad, and they still find that they can still live here and also have a top up on their wages if it's not on par. They have a lot of apprenticeships now on offer for 20 to 30k salaries with no debt. And even if you are paying debt, it's only if you earn at a certain wage and it's taken off in that way. They still, education is the best here. I have 2 degrees here, and I feel that, it's nowhere in the world that you can compete. And yes, I will sell it. I really do believe Britain, it is the best country in the world for education, for living. And it's not just the big cities like London, which is expensive. There's many places in the UK that you can work and earn. And like I said, there are definitely sectors that are still looking for the jobs. It's just that we've got to do it in the long term and support youngsters to actually have that sort of training and stay out for the long term. Because in the long term, even people that are moving abroad, they're having to pay for higher education and not getting the same equivalence. Whereas here, it's much better. And I would say anyone that's even moving, families as well, they come back for their children to have those degrees and have that actual security and the diversity of, the sort of like family planning, where you can actually have sort of protections when it comes to even, when it's maternity or, diversity or minimum wage, which is rising as well in the last, few years compared to even the high taxes.
OK, Fahima, thank you very much. That's political commentator Fahima Hamida. Let us know what you think about what you've heard Fahima say. gbnews.com/your say.
Now, this Christmas, we're putting on a really exciting event, and we want lots of you there too.
Yes, on Saturday, the 13th of December, you are invited to join the GB News family for our Carols by Candlelight concert. For your chance to be with us, you can apply by simply scanning the QR code you can see on your screen right now, or going to gbnews.com/carols. The concert will be broadcast live on Christmas Eve.
Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. There's plenty more to come.
Yes, all the Black Friday mayhem. But if you are in search of some holiday sun, here is a forecast for those top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
The heavy rain across parts of Greece due to Storm Adele is now moving into Turkey. We could see some high rainfall totals building up. There's going to be some thunder mixed in, even some large hail as well. Further west, and a few bits of rain across the southern parts of Italy. Elsewhere, mostly dry. Much of Spain actually largely dry, similar for southern France. But some wet weather pushing into northwestern parts of Spain and also Portugal, and that will feed further southeastwards through the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here,
It's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Sorry you can't talk. For once, hallelujah. It is.
I don't know what you mean.
It's not. Oh, we can. It's 9 minutes to 2 o'clock. It's Black Friday, the biggest shopping day of the year. The perfect time to bag yourself a bargain.
Well, let's cross to Bristol, where GB News' national reporter Jack Carson is at an Amazon distribution centre. Jack, take us behind the scenes.
Well, here we are at the Amazon Fulfilment Centre in Bristol. Of course, Black Friday today, such a big day for online shopping. 4 in every £5 spent today is going to be spent online over the course of the entire Black Friday period. £6.5 billion is going to be spent by UK customers. The average spending well over £200, and it's in places like here at this fulfilment centre for Amazon in Bristol where those orders really start their journey. Part of the start of that journey is with these stowers. Now, Cheryl is one of those working away on what must be a very busy day for you, so thank you for taking the time to talk to us. Just explain your job for us.
So, we're the people that put the products into the pods that the pickers can pick from, okay? So we've got a lot of items now because obviously it's Black Friday. So what we're going to do is select the size item that we want. This is a 6-inch pod, so we've got some 6-inch items here. Just going to scan it. The system's going to suggest space to us with the white lights. We're going to pop it inside. And there are cameras on the side here that are going to track your hand movements and tell the system where you've stowed it.
So it's really, really clever. So I'm going to have a go now. So which box do I need to be
having a look in here, I've got some 6-inch items here, so maybe you could just go this.
Lovely. OK, so maybe people are ordering some of these smaller items. So we take this and we scan it under there, and then these lights come up as you were saying, to tell us where to put it. So 3E
It's
looks like
suggesting there, yeah.
that's got some good space in there. So that item is in there, and then that is the start of its journey then.
That's the end of our process anyway.
Thank you so much.
And then if you press that button, you can send the pod away.
Oh, let's send the pod away to do its job. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Thank you very much. And that really is, thank you, Cheryl. It is how this whole start of your product journey, it's how it all begins here on Black Friday, here at the Amazon Fulfilment Centre in Bristol.
Well, thanks very much for that, Jack. It's absolutely fascinating to see the sort of behind-the-scenes distribution stuff, how much of it's robotic, how much of it's actually people.
Yeah, I know, but I still think we should get out there and use our high streets as much as possible as well. I'm really going to try and do my bit. Got a very special present in mind for you.
Oh, God. Wow. Now, does that mean I have to get you both a birthday present and a Christmas
and not
present?
a joint
because
one.
you have the temerity to have your birthday in December.
I know. I'm not accepting a joint present. But that's it from us for now. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a lovely rest of your day, but don't go too far because the wonderful Martin Daubney is up next after the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Some bright spells out there this afternoon, clear spells in places at first tonight with a few blustery showers still knocking about, but some more prolonged rain is on the way overnight and for the start of the weekend. One low pulling away, the next system moving up from the southwest, and that's going to bring some rain into parts of southwest England and Wales by around 8 p.m, spreading that rain widely across the southern half of the UK overnight. And that rain is going to be heavy and persistent at times, particularly across Wales and the southwest, accompanied by strengthening winds. A little drier for Scotland, Northern England and Northern Ireland. Some showers still around, but the greatest chance of clear spells, Northern Scotland, where it will be a frosty start to the weekend. It's going to be a cold start with the wind coming in from the north, bringing some rain and sleet and hail showers to the far north of Scotland, snow over the hills. But away from there, well, actually plenty of sunshine through the northern half of Scotland, at least first thing, albeit with a frosty start to the day. Cloudier skies elsewhere across the UK, and we've got this wet weather moving through. It is going to push its way eastwards into the Midlands, East Anglia and the southeast around mid-morning. It gets replaced by showers into Western England and Wales and a gusty wind. But that rain's falling on top of saturated ground could cause some issues, some localised flooding and tricky driving conditions through the day. It's certainly going to be slowly clearing the east of England through the afternoon, swinging back into northern England with some snow over the Pennines. Scotland, Northern Ireland, mostly fine, although that rain could just edge into the southeast and east of Scotland as we end the day. As it clears eastern England, it is going to bring some strong winds for a time, but a widely frosty start on Sunday away from the east coast, and that leads us on to a beautiful sunny day on Sunday before more wet weather on Monday.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the final week to see how you can enjoy Christmas on us. First, we'll give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. Then we'll give you a further £10,000 cash to spend on all your Christmas presents, even the tree. Christmas lunch, that's on us too, with £1,000 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite supermarket. Finally, a GB News Christmas goodie bag. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
First of all, are you coffee or tea?
Both.
Okay.
Both, yeah.
If you're having tea, is it herbal tea or is it normal tea? I say normal tea.
Real tea.
Real tea. And is it milk or no milk?
Obviously milk.
Obviously milk. Final question before I read the piece. Milk in first or last?
Second.
Yeah, second.
Afterwards, if you've got a bag, but obviously if you're brewing it yourself, then you want to actually just check that it's brewed
See, I'm
properly
from Wrexham. We just put the milk